Welcome to Audiobook Vision. Today, we bring you the ultimate guide to dark psychology in everyday life. Full Course Book 1, Dark Psychology and Manipulation, Version 1. If you love exploring the art of influence and the hidden aspects of the mind, you've come to the right place. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to join our growing community. Let's embark on this journey together. Introduction. Next time you find yourself in a public space, take a moment to observe the people around you. What are they doing? Who are they with? Where are they headed? Think back to your last visit to your preferred supermarket. You likely remember seeing individuals maneuvering shopping carts down the aisles. They might be with family, friends, or shopping solo. Regardless of their company, they all share a common goal: to gather groceries for the week and continue with their day. In this context, the motivation behind these actions is clearly evident. For instance, a father heads to the dairy section to pick up a gallon of milk, crosses it off his shopping list, and moves on to the next item. The grocery store serves as a fitting metaphor for motivation in everyday life. Everyone has a task to complete, akin to crossing items off a list. Some tasks are straightforward, like obtaining a haircut, while others can be intricate and time-sensitive, such as pursuing a PhD in astrophysics. Ultimately, we all possess motivations, akin to a metaphorical grocery list we aim to fulfill, whether we're aware of its contents or not. This is where human psychology becomes complex. Some individuals have clear objectives, while others are uncertain. Some are open to suggestions, while others continuously seek guidance from those around them. Some have a strong understanding of their moral values and core beliefs. Others are less certain. One moment, you might find yourself reaching for creamy peanut butter, only to switch to crunchy, or even decide on an organic nut butter instead, or perhaps opt for a jar that combines peanut butter and jelly. To delve into the concept of dark psychology, it's essential first to define psychology in general. Psychology is the study of the human mind, particularly the relationship between thoughts and behaviors. Even during the era of ancient Greek philosophers, scholars were intrigued by the workings of the mind and its influence on our actions and reactions. Modern psychology was pioneered by German physician Wilhelm Wundt, whose interests in physiology and philosophy led him to develop theories on the intricate connection between the body and mind. In 1879, Wilhelm Wundt established the world's first psychology laboratory at the University of Leipzig, aiming to demonstrate that mental processes could be measured and studied just like any other scientific phenomenon. He developed theories and experiments based on several key principles: of voluntarism, the process of organizing mental activities; reductionism, the ability to isolate specific components of the mind; introspection, the detailed self-examination of thoughts and feelings. Utilizing these principles along with a modified physiological experiment from his earlier medical career, Wundt devised a method to explore the psyche of his subjects. As a medical doctor, he had previously tested patient reaction times to various physical stimuli, such as sounds or flashes of light, early iterations of today's auditory and visual tests. This led him to consider if he could investigate the mind similarly. In one experiment, he asked subjects to concentrate on a ticking metronome and describe their feelings during the task. By capturing their sensations, thoughts, and feelings in response to the metronome, Wundt began to uncover how controlled stimuli influenced the brain. He even attempted to measure brain chemical activity during these experiments. Although Wundt's methodologies may seem primitive by contemporary psychological standards, his pioneering work trained over 100 students and inspired the subsequent generation of psychologists, including Sigmund Freud, who established psychoanalysis, Carl Jung, who expanded on Freud's ideas to create analytical psychology, William James, who introduced modern psychology to American thought, and Alfred Adler, who explored the interplay between emotional needs and social skills. This collective body of work laid the foundation for the diverse fields of psychology and psychotherapy we are familiar with today, including cognitive behavioral therapy. Dark psychology, a compelling branch of the discipline, captivates those interested in exploring the complexities of the criminal mind, the darker aspects of human behavior, and the conscious techniques individuals use to manipulate others psychologically. At its essence, Dark psychology examines the more sinister facets of human nature. What defines these traits, how to observe them, the boundaries involved, and their potential for constructive or malicious applications. This range spans from the subtle skills of a savvy car salesman who excels due to his ability to read customers and forge connections, to the more severe study of criminals who exploit their understanding of human behavior to harm others. Persuasion, manipulation, and various forms of influence permeate our lives. While you may recognize some obvious tactics, many subtle methods may remain undetected. There are various reasons for wanting to enhance your persuasive abilities. You might feel overshadowed by others' influence and seek to liberate yourself, or perhaps you're easily swayed by charismatic individuals and want to develop defenses against being manipulated. You could also be in the position of needing to sell something, whether it's yourself or your brand, and are looking to persuade others to achieve your goals. Regardless of your situation, you already possess the innate tools needed to become more persuasive and influential. Before diving into the content of this book, here are some key points to set the foundation for your understanding. First, appreciate that no two manipulators are the same, just as no two easily distracted individuals are alike. While it may seem tempting to categorize people broadly, especially when influencing a group, it's crucial to avoid oversimplified thinking. Additionally, maintain an open mind in how you interpret manipulation and persuasion throughout the book and in real life. We will provide you with tools to enhance your persuasiveness, but it's important to find your own strategies as well. Aim to apply these concepts in ways that resonate personally with your experiences and circumstances. Lastly, remember that mastering these skills requires practice. You won't become an expert overnight, but you will likely grow increasingly aware of these dynamics faster than you realize. Your perspective may already be shifting. To truly excel, you'll need to engage in real-life situations, learning through trial and error by observing others. Don't dwell on past manipulations or harbor regret. Such feelings are unproductive. Instead, focus on moving forward, knowing we'll support you every step of the way. Chapter 1. Understanding dark psychology in contrast to normal psychology. What is normal psychology? Normal psychology, often referred to as basic psychology or simply psychology, explores the complexities of the mind and behavior. Drawing from the Greek terms for soul and knowledge, psychology examines the behavioral patterns and mental processes of both humans and animals. The psyche represents the pinnacle of interaction between living beings and the external world, manifesting in their capacity to recognize motives and respond based on acquired information. Through this lens, psychology seeks to unravel the underlying principles governing human behavior. Key areas of focus within psychology include thinking, memory, perception, imagination, sensation, emotions, feelings, tendencies, and temperament. A central inquiry is what motivates individuals and shapes their actions in various contexts. What underlying processes characterize their internal experiences? The breadth of questions explored in psychology is extensive, encompassing various specialized branches such as general psychology, developmental psychology, social psychology, psychology of religion, pathophysiology, neuropsychology, family psychology, sports psychology, among others. Psychology intersects with numerous other disciplines such as genetics, speech therapy, law, anthropology, and psychiatry, reflecting its multifaceted nature. To achieve balance and harmony with themselves and the environment, individuals in today's world benefit from a foundational understanding of psychology. Psychology employs several methodologies, including 1. Introspection, analyzing one's own mental processes and personal experiences. 2. Observation, examining specific attributes of a process without engaging in it directly. 3. Experimentation, conducting controlled studies on specific processes, either through simulated activities or in real-world settings. 4. Longitudinal studies, observing specific characteristics of a consistent group, e.g., children or a community, over an extended time frame. As a distinct discipline, psychology emerged in the latter half of the 19th century, separating itself from philosophy and physiology to delve into both conscious and unconscious aspects of the human psyche. Individuals often seek psychological insights to gain self-awareness and a deeper understanding of those close to them, which is crucial for recognizing the true motivations behind actions. Psychology is sometimes referred to as the science of the soul, prompting individuals to confront existential questions such as, who am I? Where am I? And why am I here? This knowledge is vital for navigating life's journey, providing strength to overcome obstacles and continue moving forward. Interest in psychology is on the rise. Athletes, for example, increasingly incorporate psychological principles into their training. This field has seamlessly integrated into education, business, and the arts. Ultimately, individuals are not just repositories of skills and knowledge. They are complex beings with unique emotions, feelings, and perspectives. Proficiency in psychological concepts is essential both in personal and professional spheres. Whether to effectively market oneself or products, foster family harmony, or resolve conflicts, an understanding of psychology plays a pivotal role. It equips individuals to comprehend the motivations behind behavior, manage emotions, build relationships, and convey thoughts clearly, making psychological knowledge invaluable. Begins where a person appears, and, knowing the basics of psychology, many mistakes in life can be avoided. Psychology is the ability to live. Understanding dark psychology. Dark psychology is defined as both an art and a science centered on mental manipulation and control. While psychology generally seeks to study and comprehend human behavior, focusing on our thoughts, actions, and interpersonal interactions, dark psychology specifically delves into predatory thoughts and behaviors. It analyzes the tactics employed by individuals with malicious intent to motivate, persuade, manipulate, or coerce others for their own benefit, often causing harm to those affected. At its core, dark psychology explores the psychological inclinations that lead some individuals to exploit others. Humanity as a whole possesses an inherent capacity to victimize not only fellow humans, but also other living beings. While some individuals may strive to suppress these tendencies, others choose to act on such impulses. The goal of dark psychology is to illuminate the perceptions, emotions, and thoughts that drive predatory behavior. It operates on the premise that such actions usually serve a specific purpose, guided by goal-oriented and rational motivations, though there are instances of random victimization devoid of any clear intent. This concept can be examined through both religious teachings and evolutionary theories. The essence of dark psychology lies in deciphering the thoughts, emotions, and perceptions that lead people to act in predatory ways. Experts in this field argue that most predatory actions are intentional. A staggering 99.99% of individuals who prey on others do so for specific motives, while a mere 0.01% engage in such behavior without any logical reasoning. It's often remarked that everyone has a dark side, a notion recognized across various cultures and belief systems. Society often labels this darkness as evil, with some cultures attributing this malevolence to mythical entities such as the devil or demons. Scholars in dark psychology suggest that a small subset of the population commits profound acts of evil for unknowable reasons. Most people may commit wrongful acts to gain power, wealth, or revenge, but a rare few inflict harm simply because it is in their nature, committing horrors without justification or purpose. Four primary dark personality traits underpin dark psychology: narcissism, Machiavellianism, psychopathy, and sadism. Individuals exhibiting these traits often engage in meaningless harm towards others. The techniques for influencing others can vary widely, serving both constructive and deceptive purposes. Those who succeed in this manipulation have a thorough understanding of traditional psychology, allowing them to analyze and perceive the perspectives and information of those they seek to influence. This skill can be cultivated independently, as will be explored in later chapters. Many stories of deception utilizing dark psychology, like those mentioned earlier, may seem exotic, leading victims to be viewed as naive. However, the vast majority of fraudulent activities leveraging dark psychological tactics are not recognized as such by the victims, who often struggle to understand the betrayal they experienced. As previously highlighted, The intricacies of dark psychology lead the active user to indirectly process the client. Instead of issuing direct commands, they guide individuals to feel as though they are acting on their own accord. This prompts the person to comment, ask questions, and seek advice while ultimately serving the user's objectives. Behind this approach lies a strategic intent, including speculative tactics. For instance, a seemingly innocuous question like, "Will you be paying in dollars or bitcoins?" presupposes your intention to purchase a product, prompting you to consider how to complete the transaction rather than whether to make it at all. Readers might find this technique simplistic, a blatant trick easily recognizable. However, it's crucial to remember that by this point, the seller has already attuned themselves to you, subtly guiding your thoughts away from critical analysis. This is underpinned by evaluating individuals and anticipating their actions and reactions. The essence of this method involves crafting a suggestive narrative that is woven into neutral content. Throughout the conversation, the user selectively emphasizes key phrases that can ensnare the listener's consciousness. They manipulate their speech volume, timing, and pace, drawing attention to specific elements within the dialogue. Moreover, various tactics exist to underscore important words and reinforce them in the subconscious. The user might employ gestures, facial expressions, or even physical contact, such as touching your arm or shoulder. Sudden movements, approaching, turning away, or pivoting, further enhance these manipulative techniques. These strategies lay at the core of dark psychology, leading us to consider how often we are influenced against our will, and how this newfound understanding could alter our lives. Before delving into that, however, it's essential to explore the different personality types you may encounter. Understanding the dark triad and its implications. The concept of the dark triad is crucial as it connects various elements of dark psychology we've discussed. Although it might sound like something from a horror film, it is a recognized psychological framework. The dark triad identifies three of the most detrimental and harmful personality traits: narcissism, psychopathy, and Machiavellianism. This chapter will take a closer look at each of these traits and their significance within the realm of dark psychology. Understanding Machiavellianism. The first component of the dark triad we'll explore is Machiavellianism, a term derived from the political philosopher Niccolò Machiavelli. In his seminal work, The Prince, he outlines the strategies and principles employed by individuals aiming to influence others. But how does a Machiavellian individual present themselves? Key characteristics of this trait include a persistent focus on self-interest, a keen awareness of the importance of image and perception, and a propensity for exercising power and cruelty over mercy and compassion. In essence, those who embody this trait approach life with a strategic mindset. They carefully consider the potential consequences of their actions and evaluate how these actions will affect their personal outcomes. In the Machiavellian worldview, actions are often guided by the fundamental question, how will this benefit me, and how will it shape how others perceive me? Machiavellians excel at pursuing their own interests while maintaining a favorable public image, allowing them to achieve their goals while still being liked by those around them. What is psychopathy? The net aspect that we can discuss is psychopathy. This is going to refer to a psychological condition that involves a superficial charm, impulsivity, and a lack of commonly held human emotions, such as remorse and empathy. Someone who exhibits enough of these traits can be known as a psychopath. These individuals are seen as some of the most dangerous people because they are able to hide their true intentions while still causing a lot of trouble. People often associate the word psychopath with an image of someone who is mad and wields a machete. The reality is different, and this can make it more deadly. A true psychopath is more likely to be that charming and handsome stranger who is able to win over their victim before they ruin those victims' lives in the process. Interestingly, some of the top people in business score high on psychopathy personality tests. But as time goes on, it is becoming more common to see psychopathy as more of a problem to the victim and to society rather than an issue in the psychopath's own life. Psychopaths are able to get to the top of anything that they choose because they don't have to worry about some of the compassionate indecision that other humans are going to experience. What is narcissism? The third aspect of the dark triad that we need to explore is narcissism. This is often thought of as the idea that a person loves themselves too much. This is close, but quite the right definition for someone who is a narcissist. You can have self-love without being considered a narcissist. Someone who is considered a narcissist is likely to have a range of traits that are there. They will have an excessively inflated self-worth, such as seeing that their life is extra special and one of the most important lives in all of history. If this has been inflated enough, they may see that they are the very most important in the whole world. In the mind of a narcissist, they are not only special, but they are superior to everyone else. They consider themselves to be a better species of person, higher than what normal people would be. And because a narcissist believes this way, their behaviors are going to change. The behavior that you see in a narcissist is going to reflect the self-worth that the person has. Some of the outward signs or manifestations of this aspect would include the inability of the person to accept any dissent or criticism of any kind. Even if they feel that someone is trying to criticize them, they're going to have a hard time dealing with this. This kind of person also feels the need to have others agree with them all the time, and they like to be flattered. If you are around someone who seems to always have a need for constant praise, recognition, and approval, and if they seem to organize their lives in order to give them constant access to those who will fill this need, then it is likely that you are dealing with someone who is a narcissist. These three aspects are going to come together to form the dark triad. When one person has all of these three traits in them, it can be a hard task to stay away and not get pulled into whatever plan they have. Being on the lookout for these can make a big difference in how much control you have in your own personal life. Chapter 2. How to use dark psychology to manipulate others. Every day, individuals around us may employ dark psychology tactics to manipulate, influence, persuade, and intimidate us for their own gain. Dark psychology encompasses both the science and art of mind control and manipulation, whereas traditional psychology focuses on understanding human behavior, actions, interactions, and thoughts. Many people struggle to differentiate between the two, but if your goal is to manipulate others, familiarizing yourself with dark psychology is essential. Here is a breakdown of different types of individuals who are adept at manipulation. And manipulators consider their self-interest first, often at the expense of others. These self-centered individuals excel at intimidation and manipulation, displaying little concern for the consequences of their actions, as their primary focus is on personal gain. B. Skilled public speakers leverage dark, psychological, and persuasive techniques to enhance the emotional states of their audience, ultimately increasing sales of their products. They are adept at seizing moments of emotional turmoil to capitalize on others' vulnerabilities. C. Some individuals meet clinical criteria for sociopathy. They can be charming yet impulsive. Their inability to experience remorse allows them to form superficial relationships and exploit the innocent with dark tactics, showing little regard for others' feelings or the potential fallout once their true nature is revealed. D. Typical politicians frequently employ dark tactics to persuade voters that they will act in the public's best interests, all for the sake of gaining votes and solidifying their positions of power. E. Certain lawyers are solely focused on winning cases, even if it means resorting to manipulative techniques. Their primary concern lies not in achieving justice, but in maintaining their reputation and advancing their careers. F. Corporate leaders, particularly those in higher positions, often use dark psychological tactics to enforce compliance and boost performance among their subordinates. They typically disregard whether their employees are compensated fairly for their contributions. G. Sales professionals often possess a keen understanding of dark influencing tactics, allowing them to persuade potential buyers to purchase their products. Their primary concern is often profit, sometimes at the expense of the customer's needs. Now that you got to know about different types of people who may deceive you by using these dark tricks, here are the different dark psychological tactics to manipulate the people and make them do what you want them to do. 1. If you want to sell your product and wish to manipulate your customers to make them surely buy your product, you can use a decoy option. You can use it as the third option. For example, if you are facing a troublesome situation to sell the more expensive of two products, by adding the third option, you can make the expensive product more captivating and appealing. You just need to make sure that decoy option should be the same price for the more expensive option, but assuring that it is less effective. It is a good strategy to increase the sale and enticing more customers towards your expensive product. 2. To win an argument. Speak quickly so that the opponent has no other option left but to agree with you. If you speak faster, it will give the other person the less time to process what you are saying, and they will agree with you. While you should do the opposite in case when the other person agrees with you. Speaking slowly is better as it will give them the time to evaluate and analyze what you are saying. 3. You can copy the body language of people whom you want to manipulate. Imitating their body action shall impress them and will make you closer to them, and they may start liking you. If you subtly imitate the way the other person is talking, sitting, and walking, they would probably not notice that you are copying them, and it may get them to do as per your wants. 4. Scaring the other people to make them give you what you want and need is one of the dark psychological tactics to manipulate people. Anxious people often respond positively to requests afterward, as they may be occupied thinking about the danger they are surrounded with. It would make them feel scared and would do as you're saying. In addition, sometimes, even if you will not say anything, they will understand what you need and do what you would have spoken them to do for you. 5. To get people to behave ethically with you, you need to display an image of eyes. It means you should create your image as a person who watches, notice, and observe the other person by posting a picture of eyes nearby. The other people could never take you like a side option and will return all borrowed items on time. 6. Tweak such an environment for the people so that they would act less selfish. For example, if you were bargaining in a coffee shop, needless to say, you would be less aggressive as compared to what you would be in a conference room. Usually, people tend to act less selfish when neutral items surround them, whereas if work-related objects occupy them, they incline towards more aggression and selfishness. 7. Try to keep your point complicated and do not make it very easy for the people to understand in a first move. To comply with people with your request, confuse them. For example, instead of keeping a price tag of your product for $4, make it 400 pennies so that people would first analyze how much dollars would 400 pennies make, and if they bargain, they will do that in pennies rather than in dollars. Or they may just think that the price given is a deal to go for. 8. If you help someone to achieve their goals or sort their problems out, the other person tends to return your favor, as they would feel obliged by what you have done for them. This way, when the time comes, you may manipulate the other person and is one of the tactics. 9. Try to ask a question or request a person at a time when they are mentally drained and exhausted. They would never question the request, or the chances of denial for your request are very less. 10. Always make the other person focus on their gaining, not losing. Moreover, declare the price of your product at last after telling all the features and benefits of your product. For instance, if you were selling your car in $1,000, always let the other person know about its features, specifications, and benefits first. Then declare its price. The benefits will entice the customer towards the car, and then the price shall not be a constraint. 11. Do not use verbs. Try to use more nouns to change the behavior of the other person towards you. If you use nouns, it will reinforce the identity of the person for whom you may be using it. It will also indicate a specific group which shall be eloquent. Chapter 3. Analyzing people through body language. Gaining insight into your goals and how they perceive the world is heavily influenced by body language. Often, we become fixated on the words spoken by others, overlooking the nonverbal cues they provide. These body language signals can reveal a wealth of information, significantly enhancing your ability to understand and connect with your objectives. Body language encompasses the nonverbal signals we use to communicate with one another. These signals account for a substantial portion of our daily interactions. From our movements to our facial expressions, the unspoken cues we display can convey a significant amount of information. In fact, body language and other forms of nonverbal communication can account for 60 to 65% of our interactions. So, how can we learn to interpret this silent language to our advantage? Let's start by exploring the different cues of body language and how we can utilize them effectively. First, let's consider facial expressions. Think about how much information can be conveyed through someone's face. A smile often indicates happiness or agreement, while a frown can signal the opposite. Sometimes, facial expressions reveal our true emotions about a situation. For instance, someone might claim to be fine, but their facial cues could suggest otherwise. There are various emotions represented through our expressions, including 1. Contempt, 2. Desire, 3. Excitement, 4. Confusion, 5. Fear. The expressions we see on others' faces play a critical role in determining whether we trust and believe what they are saying. Research has shown that a slight eyebrow raise combined with a small smile is one of the most trustworthy facial expressions, often conveying openness and friendliness. The other type of body language cue will have to be the mouth. Mouth expressions and motions can be another vital component of body language reading. For instance, if you notice someone else chewing on his bottom lip, it may show that there are feelings of insecurity, fear, and worry. The individual can cover his mouth to be polite when he coughs, but sometimes the other person's disapproval. And smiling will be one of the best signals of corporeal language. But the smile and what it says about a person can be evaluated differently. Some of the stuff you can care about when reading someone else's mouth movements include pursed lips. If you see your goal tightened up, it's a sign of distrust, disagreement, and disgust. Lip biting. This is when you bite your lower lip, usually when you are stressed, anxious, or distressed. Mouth cover. Any moment someone wishes to conceal one of their emotional responses, they can cover their mouths in order to assist. Turned up or down. Even a slight shift in your mouth can be a subtle indication of how you feel right now. When your mouth turns up, it's a sign that you are hopeful or glad. It could be a grimace, disagreement, and even sorrow when the mouth turns down. Another area to observe as body language cue is gestures. Gestures can be a very evident, direct sign of body language to be careful about. Waving, pointing, and fingering can be common and easy to understand gestures. Some may even be cultural. Some of the most popular gestures and the significances that come with them include a clung fist. In most cases, this will show anger, but sometimes it can also imply solidarity. Up or down thumbs. This is used as a sign of approval and disapproval. The all-correct gesture. This one will assist others to say you're fine in the United States, but it is seen in some other cultures as a vulgar gesture. The next thing we have to do is look at the arms and legs of the individual you talk to. These can be useful if a lot of information is to be transmitted non-verbally. Crossing the weapons will often be a defensive maneuver. Crossing the legs away from another individual will also show a person's discomfort or a dislike. Other subtle signals, including the large expansion of the arm, can sometimes help us to seem bigger and more comfortable while maintaining the arms close to the body. When you try to measure your body language a little, be careful about some of the following signals that your legs and arms will transmit to you from the target. Crossed arms. This will give you a signal that you're closed, safe, and defensive. As a manipulator, you need to uncross the arms of the goal to make you feel comfortable. Standing on hips with your hands. This can be a good sign that the person is ready and controlled. This will sometimes be a sign of aggression. Clamp the hands so that they're behind the back. This will be a sign that your goal is angry, anxious, or boring. You have to look at some of the other signals that come first. Tap fingers or fidgeting quickly. The other person is frustrated, impatient, and even bored. Across legs. This is a good indication that someone feels closed or needs some privacy. Posture is another thing you should look at. The way we hold our bodies will also be a significant component of body language. Posture refers to the way we hold our bodies and to a person's general physical shape. Posture can give a wealth of data on how someone feels and also suggest that a person's features are submissive, open, or confident. For instance, if you sit directly, it can show that an individual is concentrated and is attempting to look after what is going on. Sitting down with the body, on the other side, will show that someone is most of the time indifferent or bored. Looking at your goal will assist you to understand whether you are interested in what you do or say, or if you need to move on to find a different destination. Whenever you attempt to read some of the languages of your body, attempt and find out some signals that your goal's position is attempting to tell you. Some of them are open posture. Open posture. This includes keeping the body's trunk exposed and open. Closed position. This one will require hiding the body's trunk and hitting the legs and arms. This posture will be more indicative of anxiety, discomfort, and depression in the objective. Chapter 4. Emotional Intelligence. Emotional intelligence, often referred to as emotional leadership or emotional quotient, is the capacity to recognize and understand one's own emotions as well as the emotions of others. Individuals with high emotional intelligence can effectively differentiate, label, and manage their emotions according to the context and environment. They typically maintain a sense of calm in the face of changes or negative situations, using their skills to assist others in navigating awkward feelings and helping them find peace. This psychological trait allows individuals to handle emotions adeptly while remaining composed. Over the years, emotional intelligence has been categorized into four key components: perceiving, utilizing, understanding, and managing emotions. Each of these abilities contributes to the overall concept of emotional intelligence, leading to the development of various models that explain how thoughts and emotional awareness interact. Research indicates that individuals with higher emotional intelligence often achieve greater success in numerous domains, including academics, careers, and personal development. It is also linked to effective leadership and enhanced workplace performance. Furthermore, experts agree that those with advanced emotional intelligence tend to have better mental health and more favorable personality traits. Since its conceptualization, numerous studies have sought to identify the factors that enable individuals to effectively manage their emotions. People typically respond to emotions to varying degrees, influenced by their intensity or pleasantness. However, those with higher emotional intelligence can regulate their feelings, minimizing their impact, even in complex situations. Emotional intelligence's effects can vary across different groups. For example, children and adolescents with high emotional intelligence often exhibit positive social interactions, whereas those with lower levels may struggle. In adults, higher emotional intelligence is associated with a positive self-image and social perception, while those with lower emotional intelligence may exhibit aggression. Features of emotional intelligence: show of authenticity. High emotional intelligence people, especially those who are more social, tend to stick to their principles and values. When sharing about themselves to others, they usually stand by their boundaries rather than sharing everything about themselves to others. As such, authenticity does not imply that you have to share all about yourself. However, you share about yourself to people who matter and those who understand you and appreciate your thoughts and feelings. Demonstration of empathy. These individuals tend to demonstrate empathy to people as they readily understand other people's feelings and thoughts. They, therefore, readily connect to others and agree on what is essential. Emotional intelligence enables them to develop more profound and more productive relationships with others. Instead of becoming judgmental and avoiding those who feel different, they comfort and make them feel important to society. Despite being empathetic, these people are cautious when it comes to decision-making, therefore avoiding agreeing to every person's motive. Apologetic and forgiving. Another feature of emotional intelligence people is that they quickly understand their mistakes. They usually have the courage and strength to apologize even without errors, therefore, indicating value to a relationship. The same applies to forgive and forget, even in the most resentful situations. As such, having emotional intelligence provides a mind that readily forgives and free from your emotions from those who hurt you. Being helpful. As emotional intelligence entails understanding and managing your emotions and that of others, then helping them becomes part of what the ability accompanies. As one of the most significant rewards to others, helping becomes a habit to these people, and they never tire or discriminate against others. However, they help each person in need without asking too many questions. As such, it helps those who follow similar footsteps as well as building trust among people to help others. Always thinking about feelings. Emotional intelligence primarily dwells on one's feelings, which often change suddenly or slowly depending on the situation or environment. When an individual has a higher emotional intelligence capability, then he or she frequently thinks about different feelings and how it may impact others. They usually ask about common questions regarding their self-awareness, reflecting on everyday activities and people who may be influenced by their emotions. As such, systematic thinking and learning about emotions provide insights used to their advantage in managing their feelings and that of others. Benefit from criticism. Nobody experiences fun when it comes to negative feedback, especially from people you trust and those close to you. However, these types of reputation are quite effective in life, as they teach you a few lessons about a particular aspect. Besides, it enables you to learn more about how others think mainly about you and things to change and become better in what you do. Receiving these negative feedbacks may become a challenge to others, but those with the ability to check their emotions benefit a lot. With the use of emotional intelligence, these people can learn to manage their emotions and move around calmly without focusing on the thoughts of others. Managing emotions. People with low emotional intelligence. When low emotional intelligence people are faced with any negative emotion, they tend to become violent or rather more reactive when compared to those with high emotional intelligence. For instance, when an individual with low emotional intelligence faces negative criticism, they may initially go into denial and withdraw from a given group to avoid shame. They become lonely and prevent any form of help offered towards them. In some cases, others may opt to use substances to keep their minds active and evade others and what they are feeling. Others may harm themselves by cutting, starving, purging, or engaging in dangerous behaviors. The primary drive to these activities is influenced by a lack of control of emotions which are usually hurting, such as criticism. People with high emotional intelligence. High emotional intelligence people have all it takes to absorb and express reasonably about how they feel about a particular sensation. For instance, when these group people are offended, they would initially pause before acting and think what their next word, or rather the best harmless action to take. They would also acknowledge what the next person is feeling or have in mind before deciding on providing their contribution or conclusion of what will become. Thinking first is usually their first step to prevent escalating the problem or causing more harm to themselves and others. Another critical aspect of high emotional intelligence people is helping themselves and people affected by a given emotion. In this case, high emotional intelligence people act entirely different when compared to low emotional intelligence individuals. Emotional quotient, EQ versus intelligence quotient, IQ. Emotional quotient, EQ, is the ability of an individual to readily learn, understand, handle, and control his or her emotions even in the most resentful situations. On the other hand, intelligence quotient, IQ, is the measure of one's intelligence usually expressed in a number. EQ enables an individual to focus on emotions which, in turn, acts as a management system to different emotions which may become harmful to others. More so, it involves other people's emotions, and an individual can readily manage these emotions without the need to sympathize. IQ measures the degree of intelligence calculated from standardized tests created to analyze human intelligence. Components of emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is linked to different internal components of a person, usually within the brain, which determines how one understands and controls emotions. In most cases, people who lack control of their emotions have been associated with mental problems, while others stating that lack of emotional control is attributed to the extent of the immediate feeling at hand. However, emotional intelligence has been proven to exist among different individuals and comprises the following components. Self-awareness. This is the ability to recognize and learn about your emotions, as well as understanding the effects accompanied by your feelings. Becoming self-aware is determined by being able to monitor emotions, realizing emotional reactions, and identifying each emotion independently. Besides, you readily understand and figure out the interaction between your emotions and how you behave when that feeling occurs. That is, when you are an emotionally intelligent individual, you become aware of several aspects about yourself and others while keeping in mind about what is wrong and right. You can readily make a choice to do wrong or wicked despite how sad, angry, or hopeless you become. Self-awareness also builds the ability to determine the strengths and limitations for quick development of measures to avoid negative impacts to an individual and to others. As a person, you can get access to new information and personal skills. Therefore, you learn from others. People with a sense of self-awareness are usually humorous, confident, and aware of the perception of others. More so, they understand what it means to be emotional despite being an everyday behavior. As among the primary components of emotional intelligence, self-awareness provides a complete guide to an individual to quickly learn what to do when facing a given emotion, which may harm both them and another person when mishandled. Self-regulation. Another significant component of emotional intelligence is self-regulation, which entails the regulation and management of emotions. After becoming self-aware of your feelings and the accompanying impacts to others and yourself, you are required to have a governing force that enhances how you react during these situations. However, it does not imply that an individual has to lock away his or her real emotions and hide how they feel about others, but they should express them in an organized manner. That is, regulating how you express your feelings in an appropriate time and place. People skilled in self-regulation are mostly flexible and quickly adapt to change, as well as excellent in settling disagreements among people and diffusion of tension. More so, they are high in conscientiousness, thoughtful, and take responsibility for their doings. As a component of emotional intelligence, self-regulation plays a significant role in enabling an individual to quickly manage and handle all types of feelings, either positive or negative, without influencing others negatively. Social skills. Emotional intelligence also comprises of social skills, which are the ability to interact with others correctly, learning about your feelings and that of others, and being able to control is not enough to develop your emotional intelligence. Then, there is a need to implement these abilities into actions when interacting with others daily. When you indulge in daily communication with others and put into action this information, then you are at the forefront in managing your feelings and that of others. For example, managers and businesses have utilized the knowledge of social skills to interact with workers and clients, thus benefiting significantly in their careers. Empathy. Empathy is the capability of comprehending other individuals' feelings. It is also vital to emotional intelligence, but provides more insight to an individual rather than recognizing the emotions of others. Empathy involves realizing emotions as well as reactions to these emotions, which primarily encompasses the help needed. For example, if someone is hopeless, sad, or emotional dependent, you are likely to sense these emotions and respond accordingly as if they are yours. You tend to provide extra care and concern, allowing other people to recognize power dynamics that influence relationships. Therefore, emotional intelligence enables you to become empathetic to others and give the needed support. Intrinsic motivation. Unlike others, people with emotional intelligence abilities are rarely motivated by external rewards, for example, richness, fame, or acclaim. These people usually work to meet their personal needs and objectives. They seek to ensure their internal satisfaction, which in turn leads to rewarding their inner needs. Such individuals remain action-oriented by creating goals that are of higher standards and work to achieve. Also, they remain committed to performing their duties entirely when needed without failure. As such, the motivation allows for the achievement of essential goals in nearly everything they engage in, no matter the complexity of the situation. More emotional people. More emotional people tend to have low emotional intelligence and therefore become very reactive, especially on negative emotions. In this case, these people usually lack self-awareness, self-regulation, and other components of emotional intelligence. When someone is regarded as a more sensitive person, the chances are that they may become very reactive on occasions such as anger and become violent. When sad, they may end up becoming stressed, lonely, and eventually being depressed. This group of people may, however, have some ability to control some of their emotions, but limited knowledge about how they react to a given situation. More emotional people may, at times, face difficulties on how they interact publicly, henceforth, cannot sustain relationships. Some of the characteristic features of more emotional people include the inability to understand other people's emotions, getting into arguments quickly, blaming others for their mistakes, and lack of empathy. Other features include difficulty sustaining friends, sudden outbursts of emotions, refusal to listen to others' views, and thinking people are usually oversensitive. More emotional people typically have no control over how they express their feelings or emotions. Therefore, they become too dependent on themselves without minding others. Less emotional people. Less emotional people are those individuals with the ability to control their emotions or feelings, even when they are profound or negative. These individuals usually have a much higher emotional intelligence when compared to more emotional people. As highlighted above, less emotional people have the ability to suppress their emotions even in the states where these emotions seem unbearable. They may look calm and in peace even after a hurtful event. More so, they are relaxed and understanding and interact well with the general public, mainly with friends, family, and those close to them, such as coworkers. When in an emotional state, for instance, these individuals typically respond to issues rather than react and understand the matter at hand. They are equipped with the 5 components of emotional intelligence, as well as self-control, and handle situations with their related selves. When faced with a more challenging situation, less emotional people rarely complain but work to find ways of solving the problem, which in most cases succeed with limited failure possibilities. As typical human beings, however, less emotional people also undergo similar impacts of negative emotions. But due to their emotional intelligence abilities, they readily get in control of their feelings and find ways to handle these situations without causing scenes. Emotional intelligence history. Emotional intelligence, the ability to control emotions, originally began in 1964, where Michael Beldock wrote the term emotional intelligence in the paper. In 1966, another article by B. Lunner, Emotional Intelligence and Emancipation, also featured the term emotional intelligence. Howard Gardner again mentioned the term in 1983 with an effort to describe IQ and other related types of intelligence. In this case, Gardner stated that various kinds of human IQ at the time failed to detail cognitive ability, which henceforth introduced emotional intelligence in a study. Subsequently, the term began being used in multiple papers, journals, and theses, such as a study of emotions. Developing Emotional Intelligence written by Wayne Payne in 1985. The term emotional quotient, EQ, surfaced in 1987 in an article written by Keith Beasley, which introduced a similar meaning to emotional intelligence. In the late 1980s, different models emerged to prove emotional intelligence in the context of controlling human feelings. Among them include the one created by Stanley Greenspan in 1989, another by Peter Salovey, and John Mayer in 1990. The term began becoming among the most commonly used. In 1995, the book Emotional Intelligence: Why It Can Matter More Than IQ by Goldman was published. As such, the term became more popular in the 1990s with several models being developed by different scientists. However, emotional intelligence, like most findings, has received several critics, especially on its role in the business sector and the development of leadership skills. More advanced research in emotional intelligence entails the trait and ability of emotional intelligence. Trait emotional intelligence remains considered as a generic behavior passed from parents to offspring. Ability emotional intelligence is the practice learned by an individual, henceforth, gaining the technique of controlling their own emotions. Chapter 5. Importance of Emotional Intelligence. Emotional intelligence plays a crucial role in various aspects of life, including careers, job performance, and overall success. It is essential to recognize the numerous ways in which emotional intelligence contributes to these areas. Emotional intelligence and job performance. In recent years, there has been an increased emphasis on the importance of emotional intelligence in management literature and leadership training seminars. This trend underscores a strong correlation between job performance and emotional intelligence, demonstrating its value across multiple dimensions. The workplace functions as a distinct social environment, separate from personal life, where the appreciation for emotional intelligence is growing. This enhanced awareness enables individuals to better understand themselves and others, navigate challenging situations, and communicate more effectively. Consequently, leveraging emotional intelligence in the workplace can significantly enhance both personal and collective social skills. Emotional intelligence involves managing emotions, which in turn boosts job performance by helping individuals remain calm and think logically. This fosters positive working relationships and goal achievement. Additionally, There is a clear connection between emotional intelligence and how senior employees interact with their subordinates. Managers with high emotional intelligence possess strong stress management skills and are adept at recognizing and addressing the stress of others. Viewing emotional intelligence through the lens of stress management highlights its critical relationship with job performance, as effective stress management greatly influences an individual's commitment to their work. Moreover, emotional intelligence is valuable for employees at all levels, not just those in management. Lower-level employees with high emotional intelligence often possess the desire and skills to build and maintain strong workplace relationships. They excel at conflict management and resolution, enabling them to sustain better relationships compared to those with lower emotional intelligence. In today's rapidly evolving job market, organizations require employees who can effectively navigate change and adapt to new challenges. This underscores the significance of emotional intelligence in enhancing job performance on both individual and group levels, clearly illustrating its value in the workplace. Emotional intelligence and resilience. Emotional intelligence has proved to be a valuable tool in adversity as it has the potential of enhancing not only teamwork effectiveness and leadership abilities, but it is also an important tool in enhancing personal resilience. The impact of emotional intelligence on the resilience of a person is the ability of that person to cope up with situations that are stressful. It has been clearly demonstrated by research that a person who has got high emotional intelligence usually easily overcomes stressors and their negative impacts. Focusing on leadership, a leader is usually expected to have increased responsibilities, which usually are accompanied by potential stressors. In such a case, it is important for the person to have strong emotional intelligence in order to be resilient and battle with these stressful conditions. From research where investigations were done into the link existing between emotional intelligence and stress, it was found out that people who showed high emotional intelligence levels were not negatively affected by stressors. These participants did an emotional intelligence ability-based test before the threat level that was posed by the two stressors was rated. After that, they reported their emotional reactions to stressors before being subjected to physiological stress to also assess their responses. The findings of this research showed that emotional intelligence has a relationship with lower threats. This study, therefore, provides us with a valid prediction that stress resilience is facilitated by emotional intelligence. From further research done, the relationship between high levels of emotional intelligence, the tendency to depressive behaviors, and resilience was drawn. It was established that there was a positive correlation that exists between mindfulness, self-compassion, and resilience with the rate of burnout. In conclusion, individuals who have got high emotional intelligence levels were more resilient and could not easily fall into depression or burnout. Emotional intelligence has a strong link to the individual's advancement and also their performance. Evidence also suggests that there is a significant link between their resilience and their motivation to achieve. Apart from that, it also made a suggestion that resilience acts as a mediator between self-motivated achievement and resilience. Resilience, in this case, has got a perseverance component that acts as a motivation to motivation when facing obstacles. From the various research findings and theories, we have seen a strong relationship between emotional intelligence and resilience. We have clearly seen how one's emotional intelligence levels affect their resilience. This, therefore, has proved emotional intelligence to be very important. Emotional intelligence and motivation. Emotional intelligence is a key component for motivation, which in turn is very vital in the achievement of success. An emotionally intelligent person will always have an understanding of what they aspire and the necessary motivation skills that they would need to achieve these aspirations. There are 4 elements that are said to make up motivation: how we commit ourselves to the goals we set, how ready we are to utilize opportunities, self-drive to improve, and how resilient we are. Motivation is said to be a psychological process that which we use to psyche ourselves into action in order to realize a desirable outcome. It doesn't matter the action we are doing, whether dedication of much time to work on a project or just changing the TV channel using a remote. Without being motivated, we cannot act. This is because motivation energizes, arouses, sustains, and directs performance and behavior. The motivation that usually comes from within, also known as intrinsic motivation, usually drives us to the achievement of our full capability. A person who is emotionally intelligent has got both skills required to motivate themselves and those needed to motivate other people too. This is a very useful skill to possess, especially if you are in a management position in your job. Self-motivation is the key to the achievement of one's goals. With self-motivation, emotionally intelligent people will always be capable of impacting the motivation of employees. The ability to determine the emotions and needs or concerns of others is a great skill to possess in relation to the determination of perfect methods of motivating individuals and teams. From a study and research it was found out that the emotional intelligence of a first-year graduate was positively linked to their self-motivation to studying the respective course and choosing that course. Another study of senior employees with very high emotional intelligence found out that they are good in arguments, have good behavior, and great work outcomes. It therefore means that a happy employee is a motivated employee. The capability to be conversant with anxiety and stress is a very useful emotional intelligence tool when it comes to motivation. From the above studies and research findings, it is clear that emotional intelligence plays a major role in one's motivation. Since motivation is a very vital tool in our actions, then emotional intelligence is also very important. Emotional intelligence and decision-making. Emotional intelligence plays a key role in both professional and personal development. It not only has an impact on the way in which we handle our behaviors and control our social complexities, but also the approaches we take in decision-making. Having an in-depth understanding of the emotions you feel and the reason as to why you are feeling them can heavily impact your decision-making capabilities. This, therefore, means that if we carefully look into our emotions, then we can avoid making misleading and misguided decisions. Emotional intelligence is a very vital tool required in the prevention of making poor decisions based on our emotions, whereby lower emotional intelligence can make you anxious and result in you making a poor, misguided decision. This does not imply that we should keep emotions aside when making decisions, but discovering these emotions which might not have any relationship with the problem and ensuring that they do not influence the decision that you're going to make. Negative emotions can be a stumbling block to decision-making and problem-solving in either your workplace or even personal circumstances. Being able to recognize emotions that are becoming a stumbling block to making rational decisions and being able to effectively ignore the emotions will prevent their negative influence on your decision. This, therefore, means that decision-making at this stage will be much favored as it will not be negatively influenced in any way. From research done through observations and administering a series of questions, it was discovered that people and organizations reaped big benefits from a practical application of emotional intelligence in making decisions. This study had the aim of improving emotional intelligence awareness and how emotional intelligence skills can be employed in decision-making. From the observations, it was discovered that having training sessions on emotional intelligence is one of the most effective ways to incorporate decision-making skills and also helps you to understand the possible consequences of poor decision-making. Having an understanding of the causes and possible consequences of emotions gives you the freedom to manage and make a decision about the feeling. For instance, if you have an argument with your spouse that go to work without resolving it, you will probably stay angry the whole day. Being angry at work, your colleague might make an offer to you, but you dismiss it without even paying attention to it. This is a kind of emotional interference that can be very dangerous to your decision-making. If you have high emotional intelligence, then you can be able to identify this form of emotional interference and manage it, thus avoiding making decisions that are emotionally driven. This, therefore, means that emotional intelligence is vital when making decisions. Emotional intelligence and success. There are things which mean different to different people. As happiness is a success which everyone has a different version of defining it. But no matter how success is defined, it is clear that emotional intelligence plays an important part in its achievement. From history, most intelligent individuals are usually not attributed to greatest successes. This is because IQ is not sufficient on its own to enable one to succeed in life. In regards to this, you can be the most intelligent person, but if you lack emotional quotient, You may fail to turn down people with negative thoughts about you and even manage stress. This shows that emotional intelligence is sometimes even more powerful as compared to IQ in life success. Your emotional intelligence is the actual thing that helps you to achieve your life objectives and realize great successes. Therefore, developing emotional intelligence would influence your achievements through contribution to your morale, cooperation, and most importantly, motivation by a great margin. In a workplace, the managers and employees who perform well as compared to others usually employ strategies that are associated with emotional intelligence in the management of conflicts, reduction of stress, and thus achieving their goals. In the recent past, there has been blooming evidence of a range of activities said to constitute emotional intelligence are now vital in determining success. This refers to success both in the workplace and also one's personal life. It incorporates applications that we associate within our daily lives and relationships, businesses, and even parenting. Emotional intelligence guides one to easily manage their emotions in situations that are likely to provoke anxiety. These situations include when taking examinations at the university. It is also positively associated with success in social functioning and personal relationships. In social relationships, success achievable with the employment of emotional intelligence skills to determine other people's emotions, then adopt their emotional states and thus regulate the way they behave. This briefly shows how important emotional intelligence is in achieving success in the different spheres of life. Emotional intelligence and communication. One's ability to have the knowledge and understanding of their emotions might aid them to be aware and understand the feelings that other people are experiencing. This has got an impact on the way in which we communicate in our daily lives. Considering communication and conflict resolution in the workplace, people with great emotional intelligence levels would most probably approach the conflict in the most reasonable way possible and negotiate together with others to finally come up with a reasonable outcome. On the contrary, a person with lower levels of emotional intelligence will not be able to solve the conflict in a reasonable, calm manner, thus might even end up without a solution at the end in the workplace. Relationships are usually affected by the manner in which we can manage our emotions and also understanding the emotions of those around us. The capability to do this helps us in communicating without necessarily resorting to confrontation. If you have high emotional intelligence, then it is beyond doubt that you are equipped with conflict management skills, and thus you will be able to put up a meaningful relationship, guaranteed capacity to understand and address needs of those they engage with. In recent years, emotional intelligence has been able to receive much attention that drives effective communication within individuals and even teams. On close examination of emotional intelligence as a reason for team success, you will find that it does not only it drives the viability of a team, but also affects communication quality in a positive way. Achievement of successful communication in relation to successful negotiation and conflict has a very close relationship with high emotional intelligence levels. In this case, individuals with lower emotional intelligence would be so defensive in such stressful situations. This will instead escalate the conflict instead of managing it. If you have high emotional intelligence, then this means that you have got the necessary skills to ensure effective communication without resulting in a confrontation. From this, we can easily derive the importance and great contribution that high levels of emotional intelligence add to the achievement of effective communication. Emotional intelligence and happiness. Just like any other word or feeling, happiness seems something easy, but actually getting to understand it is when you will realize that it is a hard nut to crack. This is because different people have got different instances and experiences that they describe them to mean happiness to them. Truly, happiness means different to different people, but undoubtedly, emotional intelligence is a great requirement to have despite the kind of interpretation you prefer. Happiness is an emotional intelligence facilitator that contributes to each and everyone's self-actualization, which positively impacts our happiness. From a study where the relationship between different interpersonal relations and emotional intelligence was examined, it was discovered that individuals with high emotional intelligence scored highly in self-monitoring, social skills, and taking empathic perspective. Apart from that, they also scored highly in affectionate relationships, satisfaction in relationships, and cooperation with their partners. Emotional intelligence skills are very important when it comes to reducing stress. Thus, in turn, will positively impact on one's happiness and well-being in general. Apart from the motivational value that it possesses, happiness acts as a monitor to the well-being of an individual. It is also a source of a positive mood to the manner in which the person copes up and meets daily needs, pressures, and challenges. Positivity is what actually encourages the emotional energy required in the increment of an individual's motivational levels, which is responsible for getting things done. It actually helps one to be successful in what they are doing and even gets to the extent of telling them the extent of success they are actually achieving. From a study done by Furnham, it was realized that a large section of variance that is evident in the well-being and happiness of a person is determined by their emotional intelligence levels. This refers to their ability to stabilize their emotions, social competence, and even relationship skills. Although these emotional intelligence skills are not the only source of one's happiness, it is very vital to realize that they contribute and impacts our happiness up to 50%. This, therefore, prove it to be a very vital thing which should always be put into consideration. Happiness has, therefore, proven to be closely linked to emotional intelligence if the research and studies detailed above are to go by. A person with high emotional intelligence will have the necessary skills to dodge any obstructions that might act as a hindrance to happiness. On the other hand, an individual who has low levels of emotional intelligence will not be able to cope up with these obstructions and end up always sad and stressed up. This thus proves emotional intelligence to be vital. Emotional intelligence and goals. In life, each and every person has got goals and achievements that they hope to achieve someday in life. In order to achieve these goals, there are various conditions that usually impact it either positively or negatively. In this case, emotional intelligence also plays a key role in the achievement of these goals. Emotional intelligence will drive you to realize self-actualization, which requires you to first get motivated. In order to have the motivation, you will need to be happy with whatever you do. This is because lack of happiness will challenge you in pursuit of the motivational levels that are required to achieve your goals. In order to realize success and eventually achieve your dreams and goals, there is a need to employ emotional intelligence skills. If you have high emotional intelligence levels, you will definitely perform excellently in what you are doing in all aspects. The effectiveness of a person or a team in a certain process directly reflects their emotional intelligence skill level. Those with high emotional intelligence levels will perform well, while those with lower intelligence levels would perform dismally and might never achieve their goals. If we want to produce best results in what we do and achieve the goals we might have set, then all we need is a positive self-regard, effective skills to solve problems, skills to make informed decisions, and informed self-awareness. All these are directly attributed to one's emotional intelligence. This, therefore, means that our levels of emotional intelligence dictate if we will achieve our goals or not. Low emotional intelligence will see you fail and never achieve the set goals. On the other hand, high emotional intelligence levels with required emotional skills are very important, and they will positively contribute to the achievement of your goals in life. Chapter 6. Mind Control. Though mind control may seem like a sinister plot straight out of a film, it's likely that you've encountered it multiple times each day, often without realizing it. While the concept of mind control, often referred to as thought reform, can be controversial, it doesn't always involve deceit or manipulation. In fact, it can be as straightforward as using subliminal suggestions to guide someone's thoughts in a specific direction rather than allowing them to follow their own instincts. Numerous perspectives exist on the subject of mind control, but let's explore a familiar example. Companies utilize various sensory elements, such as color, scent, sight, sound, and taste, to enhance their sales and attract consumers. For instance, when you walk into a grocery store, you might notice fresh-cut flowers at the entrance. But how often do you actually buy those flowers? Likely, not very often, unless prompted by a special occasion. Grocery stores strategically place these flowers to tap into the subconscious minds of their customers. The vibrant flowers evoke feelings of freshness and positivity, subtly encouraging you to think about the fresh produce available inside. In fact, stores often profit more from fresh produce sales than from name-brand canned or frozen items, directing more of your spending into their profits rather than those of large production companies. Every day, you encounter various forms of mind control. Product placements in movies and on television, the background music playing in stores or elevators, and even persuasive friends can all influence your thoughts and decisions. Re-education is another potent yet contentious tool in the realm of mind control. It involves reshaping someone's existing beliefs or thought processes, a task that can be time-consuming. At its core, this method relies heavily on repetition. By continuously reiterating a belief, idea, or thought to someone, you can gradually shift their perspective. This immersion in the repeated concept encourages them to reassess their previous opinions, often leading to a new understanding that aligns with your own views. You've effectively used mind control to sway their thinking. Another approach is priming, a useful strategy to influence others, albeit sometimes viewed negatively as indoctrination. However, the aim is not to create a cult. Instead, it involves persuading others to align with your beliefs by employing various tools at your disposal. Priming softens a person's stance toward you and your ideas, gradually easing them into the notion that your perspective holds merit. This process may involve lengthy conversations, showing empathy, and demonstrating genuine care and understanding. Once a foundation of trust is established, you can begin to introduce your ideas or beliefs, making it easier for the other person to accept your viewpoints. Remember, building that mutual respect takes time, and meaningful change doesn't happen overnight. A few techniques to help you on your path to persuasion using coercion may involve thinking for others, being specific in your logic and requests, creating a real sense of urgency, and stressing the importance of your goal or idea. When presenting someone with a change in long-held ideas or requests, thinking for them takes the pressure of deciding off them. People often have enough on their mental plates as it is. You shouldn't be asking them to take on more, especially when you can do the heavy lifting for them. Explain exactly why they should see things your way, offering as many examples as possible as to the correctness to your idea, proof that what you want is not only right, but it is proven to be effective or accurate. Once you have specifically lined out why they should agree with you, tell them what is next and why things need to be done your way. Be friendly but as firm and confident in your pitch to them as you need be, and often discouraging questions until you are finished explaining your stance helps steer others in your direction. They often forget their questions or objections as they listen to you explain what you want, why, and what you think needs to happen next to achieve the goal. It is all about the goal. While on the topic of your goals and what you want to achieve, it is imperative to stress the importance of what you want to achieve. If others are consistently being spoken with on how important the idea or goal is and specifics on why it is so important, eventually they start to see your idea as more than just something you want, but an issue of utmost importance. Your thought or goal becomes something more, and it should be more to you too. It should be a movement. A goal doesn't have to be a social ideal to be a movement. You just need others to feel its importance as much as you do. Everybody wishes to be on the right side of history, no matter how big or small the issue is. And all it takes is someone to see your want as a matter that needs to be addressed or adjusted. And where there is one person who agrees with you, there are two, and more soon to follow. So, your idea, goal, or thought is now more than just something you want. Other people want it too. And it is not just important, it is imperative. And it needs to happen now. Creating a sense of urgency is another effective form of utilizing mind control techniques to your benefit. Making urgent statements or claiming that this situation is time-sensitive will create an emotional response in those you wish to influence or persuade. A specific deadline needs to be in place, but the idea that this can't wait long needs to be an underlying sentiment. The quicker you get other people on board, the more important you convince them your want is, the more urgent they believe things are, the less resistance you will run into. Repeating equals results. The more information backing your idea or goal people are given, the more likely they will let you think for them and just go with the flow. The more urgent the matter is, the less time people have to ask discouraging questions or second-guess their shift in ideas. Being consistent is the core aspect of implementing mind control techniques to get what you want. Consistently repeating what you want, And be consistent when rejecting old ideas or goals. Be consistent when speaking about what needs to happen, when and why. These factors should be underlined in bold print, repeated regularly, and the time sensitivity need to be stressed. There is nothing wrong with being a little pushy to get what you want out of your life. Another great technique when using mind control is to ask small things of others or asking for small changes in another's ideas, and then expanding from there. Let's use a raise from your employer as an example. If you want a decent increase in pay, don't ask for your top dollar pay increase. Ask for a small increase in pay based on your performance and loyalty. Your boss will agree, considering you are worthy of the raise to begin with, and think that they got off cheap keeping you happy. After you have reached the first step in reaching your ultimate pay goal, ask for more work. Let your employer know you are more than happy taking on more responsibility. You could possibly save the money if you are doing more work than before. They may not have to hire another employee to work weekends if you are willing to come in for a few hours on a Saturday. Now, you have a pay increase, but you have more responsibility. It only seems fair that you are paid a little more now, that you are a more valuable resource for your employer to utilize. It's better they give you another slight pay increase to cover your knowledge and expertise in the workplace than bother trying to hire another employee to replace you. You see how simple it can be? Now, that isn't saying that you have a boss or employer this would work on, but if you are implementing the other tools you have in your fast-growing arsenal, you are now a very well-liked employee and coworker who knows how to influence and persuade others to see things the way you do. Your employer may dislike the idea of paying you even more than before, but sometimes it's not just your work ethic that matters. Sometimes it's what you bring to the table for everyone you encounter. It is not easy to say no to someone who you feel a debt to. The final technique of mood control we should consider is generosity. You should always strive to give more than you take from others. When you give more of your time, your effort, your attention to others, they appreciate it. They remember it. And when the moment comes that you want something in return, it is much harder to say no or disagree or refuse to cooperate with another who has freely offered up so much to them. Even in circumstances or changes others may not want to agree or get on board with, if they know that you have been offered the same courtesy by you previously, they find it hard to go against you. It falls back to persuasion, influence, and reciprocation. Most often, those that you have committed your time and attention to will return the favor. Even if you are met with resistance by someone who you have given to, a gentle reminder of what you have done for them is often all that is needed to get them on board with what you want. Sometimes it isn't the loudest voice in the room that matters, but the most consistent and softest from the individual who has done the most to help others. That soft but firm voice can be yours. You only need to take your opportunities as they present themselves. Who uses mind control? Media producers. Our five senses guide us through life, but they can also deceive us. The power of sight and the brain's visual processing functions is immense. We typically experience dreams visually, often recalling someone's appearance instead of other sensory memories associated with them. This emphasizes the potency of visual imagery as a tool for media manipulation. Traditionally, media production has been controlled by corporations and institutions that exploit visual and subliminal mind control techniques. For instance, quick flashes of products or figures embedded within films can evoke strong emotional responses, influencing viewers without their conscious awareness, a tactic still seen in modern political campaigns. Additionally, sound poses another vulnerability to covert mind control. Various experiments and personal encounters demonstrate this effect. Have you ever found yourself unable to shake off a catchy song despite knowing it was in your head? Such auditory influences can be profoundly persuasive when unnoticed. Research indicates that exposure to regional music in restaurants can subconsciously lead diners to choose wines from that specific area, often without them realizing how sound influenced their decision. Lovers. Humans are inevitably shaped by their environments, a reality that influences behavior throughout their lives. For example, a child raised by alcoholics may struggle with addiction or react by avoiding alcohol altogether. Those raised in restrictive households may rebel when finally independent, while individuals from chaotic backgrounds might become overly meticulous about cleanliness. Nurturing affects us in subtler ways as well. such as a deep-rooted belief that a particular dish is unparalleled, shaped by family traditions and cultural backgrounds. When two people embark on a relationship without a willingness to adapt their beliefs, they may coexist in the same space without truly connecting. Success in love mirrors success in other areas. It hinges on establishing strong relationships and effectively influencing others. Those adept in forming and nurturing satisfying connections often find greater fulfillment than those who struggle in this domain. While some may find relationship skills come naturally, others can learn them, especially with the help of neurolinguistic programming, (NLP), which provides effective techniques for developing meaningful connections. Salespeople. When a salesperson requests a brief endorsement from a repeat customer, they hope for a positive response. Similarly, when one asks their partner to share business cards or a blogger for a link exchange, the goal is to encourage affirmative replies. Each yes contributes to the growth of a business or a blog. This fundamental principle of marketing relies on persuasive techniques to motivate individuals to support a product or initiative, and these methods are easily attainable. Writers. If you're considering writing a guest post for another blog, it's wise to start small. Rather than submitting a full manuscript right away, you might begin with a couple of introductory paragraphs outlining your idea. Afterward, create a detailed outline, then draft a complete piece for their consideration. When seeking testimonials from customers, initiate the process by requesting a few sentences via email, gradually encouraging them to elaborate into a more substantial review, eventually leading to an in-depth endorsement of your product and service. It's crucial for every task to have a genuine deadline. The key term here is real. We've all encountered salespeople who claim urgency with fabricated deadlines, often lacking substance. While this tactic is common, it's ineffective and unnecessary. Creating authentic urgency is straightforward. Limit free offers to a set time frame. When requesting testimonials, make sure to specify the last day they can be submitted for consideration. While some may not be able to assist, the potential for participation is always better than never starting the process. In education, through the education of impressionable children, society molds them into ideal citizens. They are instructed and conditioned in ways that align with the interests of the government and authorities, often without anyone questioning the process. Advertising and propaganda. By saturating the environment with advertising and propaganda, those in power can diminish people's sense of self-worth while fostering an unhealthy need for their products, rather than simply a desire for them. This approach serves as a subliminal tactic to make individuals feel inadequate, driving them to buy what is marketed in hopes of boosting their self-esteem. Sports, politics, religion. These strategies aim to divide and conquer. Each domain places individuals into distinct categories, fostering strong loyalties that hinder unity and support among groups. Consequently, instead of coming together, individuals find themselves pitted against one another, which allows those in authority to maintain control over a divided populace. Chapter 7. Mind Control Techniques. Manipulation is an age-old phenomenon, not a recent or fictional invention. Gaining a clear understanding of the art of persuasion is crucial for navigating its presence in our lives. In this chapter, we will explore the psychology behind manipulation, enabling you to identify situations where it may arise and recognize individuals who might try to sway you. This issue extends beyond mere domination. Without awareness, we might find ourselves acting in ways that contradict our true personalities and behaviors. We'll also examine how businesses attract customers to purchase their products and services, and by recognizing these tactics, you can better resist the influence of persuasion. We often like to believe that we are independent decision-makers, but the reality is that our control is inconsistent, and we may not always be aware of external influences. As children, we are shaped by our parents and have little say in our upbringing. Once we enter the education system, we encounter further manipulation from teachers who instill societal norms and expectations. As adults, we are swayed by politicians vying for our votes, often supporting parties based on their promises rather than shared beliefs in their policies. This dynamic grants such politicians power, as their choices have a direct impact on our lives. Are we truly in command of our lives? or are we merely subject to the strategies of skilled persuaders? Later in this chapter, we will delve into methods for countering various manipulative techniques, some of which may be subtle or hidden. The first step is to learn how to identify when manipulation is occurring so that you can effectively respond. Recognizing the art of manipulation. What should we be vigilant about in our daily lives? Persuasive language. The idiom that every picture tells a story is very true. Words can be so much more powerful as they inspire and encourage us, even to the point of manipulation. How many are the times you have been inspired by a good orator, whose daring speech motives you into action? Words even influence when we are lost completely in a great book. The art of words can be so influential in coercing us to believe something, even when our eyes tell us differently. Communication is a powerful tool, especially when it comes to making people do things. Advertisers and salespeople use language to convince their goods are just what we are looking for. Using words such as affordable, easy to use, safe, enjoyable, time-saving, guaranteed to last. Note how all these words make us believe they are confident in their own products. Politicians will use language such as we to encompass you in their world, us to make you feel a part of a team. These are all communication tactics to make us feel included, so therefore important. Bullies use language along with aggressive behavior to achieve their own selfish goals. Criminal predators, such as psychopaths, sociopaths, and narcissists, are all people who learn the use of persuasive language. This is a means to get their own way and gain control over another person. Techniques used in mind control. Present-day mind control is both innovative and mental. Tests demonstrate that basically by uncovering the techniques for mind control, the impacts can be diminished or disposed of at any rate from mind control publicizing and promulgation. Increasingly hard to counter are the physical interruptions, which the military-mechanical complex keeps on creating and enhance. 1. Education. This is the most self-evident, yet still remains the most treacherous. It has consistently been an eventual tyrant's definitive dream to teach normally receptive youngsters. Subsequently, it has been a focal segment to communist and fascist oppressive regimes from the beginning of time. Nobody has been increasingly instrumental in uncovering the motivation of present-day instruction than Charlotte Iserbyt. One can start investigation into this region by downloading her book as a free PDF, The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America, revealing the job of globalist establishments in forming a future planned to deliver servile automatons reigned over by a completely taught, mindful exclusive class. 2. Promotions and propaganda. Edward Bernays has been referred to as the creator of the consumerist culture that was planned principally to focus on individuals' mental self-portrait or scarcity in that department, so as to transform a need into a need. This was at first imagined for items, for example, cigarettes, for instance. Nonetheless, Bernays additionally noted in his 1928 book, Propaganda, that purposeful publicity is the official arm of the imperceptible government. This can be seen most unmistakably in the advanced police state and the developing native narc culture, enveloped with the pseudo-enthusiastic war on terror. The expanding union of media has empowered the whole corporate structure to converge with government, which currently uses the idea of promulgation arrangement. Media, print, motion pictures, TV, and link news would now be able to work flawlessly to incorporate a general message which appears to have the ring of truth since it originates from such a significant number of sources at the same time. When one moves toward becoming sensitive to recognizing the fundamental message, one will see this engraving all over. What's more, this isn't even to specify subliminal informing. 3. Prescient programming. Many still deny that prescient writing computer programs is genuine. Prescient programming has its causes in predominantly elitist Hollywood, where the big screen can offer a major vision of where society is going. Simply glance back at the books and motion pictures which you thought were implausible or sci-fi and investigate society today. For a nitty-gritty breakdown of explicit models, Vigilant Citizen is an incredible asset that will most likely make you take a gander at amusement in a totally unique light. 4. Sports, politics, religion. Some may resent seeing religion or even legislative issues put together with sports as a technique for mind control. The focal topic is the equivalent all through isolate, and prevail. The systems are very straightforward. Impede common propensity of individuals to participate for their endurance, and train them to frame groups bowed on control and winning. Sports has consistently had a job as a key diversion that corrals innate propensities into a non-significant occasion, which in present-day America has arrived at silly extents where challenges will break out over a game VIP, leaving their city, yet basic human issues, for example, freedom, are chuckled away as immaterial. 5. Food, water, and air. Additives, poisons, and other nourishment harms actually modify mind science to make mildness and indifference. Fluoride in drinking water has been demonstrated to bring down IQ. Aspartame and MSG are excitotoxins which energize synapses until they kick the bucket, and simple access to the inexpensive food that contains these toxins by and large has made a populace that needs center and inspiration for a functioning way of life. The vast majority of the cutting-edge world is flawlessly prepped for uninvolved responsiveness and acknowledgement of the authoritarian tip-top. 6. Medications. We can equate this to any addictive substance. However, the mission of mind controllers is to be certain you are dependent on something. One noteworthy arm of the cutting-edge mind control motivation is psychiatry, which expects to characterize all individuals by their issue instead of their human potential. This was foreshadowed in books, for example, Brave New World. Today, it has been taken to considerably assist limits as a medicinal oppression has grabbed hold where about everybody has a type of confusion, especially the individuals who question authority. The utilization of nerve tranquilizers in the military has prompted record quantities of suicides. To top it all off, the cutting-edge medication state currently has over 25% of U.S. youngsters on mind-desensitizing drugs. 7. Military testing. There is a long history associated to the military as the proving ground for mind control. The military personality is maybe the most pliable, as the individuals who seek after life in the military by and large resound to the structures of progression, control, and the requirement for unchallenged submission to a mission. For the expanding number of military individuals scrutinizing their influence, an ongoing story featured DARPA's arrangements for transcranial mind control head protectors that will keep them centered. 8. Electromagnetic range. An electromagnetic soup encompasses all of us, charged by present-day gadgets of comfort, which have been appeared to directly affect mind work. In an implicit affirmation of what is conceivable, one scientist has been working with a divine being head protector to instigate dreams by adjusting the electromagnetic field of the mind. Our advanced soup has us latently washed by conceivably mind-changing waves, while a wide scope of potential outcomes, for example, phone towers, is currently accessible to the eventual personality controller for more straightforward mediation. Mind control is more common than most people think. It is not easy to detect because of its subtle nature. In many instances, it happens under what is perceived as normal circumstances like through education, religion, TV programs, advertisements, and so much more. Cults and their leadership use mind control to influence their members and control whatever they do. It is not easy to detect mind control. However, when one realizes it, they can get out and start afresh. Chapter 8. The Secrets of Neuro-Linguistic Programming. Neuro-linguistic programming, commonly known as NLP, is one of the most prominent systems for influencing human behavior and thought processes. Its techniques are utilized by a wide range of professionals, including politicians, marketers, and media figures, often in ways that can be quite manipulative. Developed in the 1970s by John Grinder and Richard Bandler, NLP gained significant traction in the 1980s, especially within New Age, occult, and psychoanalytic movements. By the 1990s and 2000s, it began to penetrate the realms of politics and advertising. Over the years, it has become deeply embedded in communication strategies and marketing tactics. It's important to recognize that NLP can sometimes operate as a manipulative force globally, attracting attention from those in various business sectors. Practitioners of NLP, often described as having a Rasputin-like talent for persuasion, can influence others in remarkable ways. Today, NLP serves multiple purposes, from helping individuals confront challenges like anxiety, PTSD, and phobias to potentially darker applications. While we might hope that NLP remains confined to therapy sessions, Its presence is pervasive in our daily lives, influencing everything from workplace interactions to the advertisements we encounter online. NLP emphasizes not just spoken language, but also the powerful messages conveyed through body language. The classification of NLP as a legitimate science versus a pseudoscience has sparked ongoing debate. This uncertainty persists, partly because it hasn't undergone the same rigorous testing as established therapies like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. The wide array of techniques within NLP complicates efforts to determine which methods are genuinely effective. Some studies suggest that NLP can lead to improvements in conditions like psychosis and instability, while others exploring its role in addressing PTSD and anxiety yield mixed results. With over 4 decades of presence, the enduring nature of NLP indicates a degree of validity, as it remains prevalent in various aspects of daily life and commercial practice. It also occupies a unique position within the fields of psychology and dark psychology. Its loosely structured nature makes it challenging to demonstrate definitive success. There are numerous approaches and methodologies within NLP, resulting in varied effectiveness. For some individuals, it proves to be a powerful therapeutic tool that enhances their quality of life, while others may find it ineffective and require more traditional therapeutic methods to achieve mental well-being. NLP history. NLP is, in a way, a method of mind control. It was developed by a team of people. However, the majority of the credit is given to 2 California boys, John Grinder and Richard Bandler. In the 1970s, they decided to combine the works of Virginia Satter, a therapist for families, Friedrich Perls, a psychotherapist, and a hypnotherapist by the name of Milton Erickson. They wanted to take the heart of linguistic therapy and improve it, find the pieces that truly worked and make something better. The 3 people that they studied were chosen due to the fact that they had better results with their clients than most others in their field. In fact, people found their success to be odd and uncommon. Naturally, inquisitive minds wanted to know what these people had in common and why their methods worked so well. They studied them in live sessions and via videotape. NLP is subtle. When we think about normal hypnotherapy, we think about people falling asleep and acting out strange and silly acts. Realistically, it is used for much more meaningful purposes. For example, people use hypnotherapy to help them stop smoking or to deal with traumas of the past that may have not been coped with. NLP does things a bit differently. It is much more suggestive and not so in your face. In the beginning, neurolinguistic programming was thought to be as helpful as products like snake juice from the days of the Old West. However, as the 70s turned into the 80s, it became more and more accepted. Businesses were jumping on the bandwagon to learn about it, so they could, in turn, use it to help them gain profits from consumers. In addition, everyone from therapists to political figures started to want the information on this type of programming. It seriously started to blow up in terms of popularity. Companies became interested in NLP because it can help them communicate more clearly. This helps to improve the performance of employees and the overall performance of the business. Businesses that use NLP have experienced better growth in their companies as a whole. Not only can it help people become better negotiators, it can also help them stay motivated. When you feel comfortable at work and you feel like everyone is giving it their all, it's easy to build a solid team. Being a confident leader that pays attention to tone, body language, and verbiage will help lead to better success. Implementing the practices of NLP can promote growth for companies. As people started to employ these tactics, they started to notice changes in their teams, boosts in morale and productivity. Now we see NLP happening around us every day. This is not necessarily a bad thing, as people that practice NLP tend to be more self-aware. In turn, they tend to make better choices that are made from rationality rather than emotions. Pillars of NLP. There are 4 main points to NLP. They are referred to as the pillars of NLP. They are behavioral flexibility, rapport, outcome thinking, and sensory awareness. Each one is of equal importance as the others. Taking the time to look briefly at each one of these points gives a better understanding of NPL as a whole and how it can help you weed out the fakers in your life. The first pillar is behavioral flexibility. Basically, this means to go with the flow. When people can see that the tactic they are currently using isn't working and adapt their behavior, it can have great results. Being able to quickly change your perspective will allow more people to understand you. The next aspect we're going to look at is rapport. Creating a good rapport with someone is simply getting them to trust you quickly. In addition, it is the ability to form quick relationships with people. It is easy to build rapport by using common language, being polite, and showing empathy. There are many ways to build a good rapport with a person. These are only a few. Then we move on to outcome thinking. It is exactly what it states, spending the time to think about the end result of what you want. Oftentimes, people get stuck on a certain point that is commonly negative. It consumes the thought pattern and can make choosing the correct route to where you actually want to go difficult. With outcome thinking, you're always working toward an end goal. This can promote better decision making along the way. Lastly, we have sensory awareness. Being aware of the surroundings contributes to knowing what is actually going on. When you walk into a public place and you take notice of the tone of the room, the colors surrounding you, the groups of people, it can be very enlightening. It can also help you easily understand how you need to behave in that situation. The more you learn about these 4 pillars, the more success you will have with NLP. They're the foundation, and anyone who wants to learn NLP will spend a lot of time on each one. Gaining more knowledgeable helps you apply what you have learned to your daily life, and the more protected you will be from the ones that want to manipulate you, control you, or cause other burdens in your life. NLP has grown and changed over the years. What started out as focusing on what people's eyes were doing, the words they choose to use, and building quick rapport turned into something much, much more. All sciences grow and change over the course of time, and we imagine that this one will also continue to evolve. After focusing on what the yes were doing, word choice, and rapport, this therapy started to grow and focus on other aspects. In the 80s, the people using NLP were focusing on what it is that causes feelings inside of us. This helped therapists to figure out how to help someone deal with their individual problems. More and more people started using the techniques found with NLP, but they wanted to put different names to it, to say they had come up with it all on their own. When it comes down to it, no matter what you call it, NLP is the same across the globe. Today, it is used not only to help you have control and choices in how you react, but it can also help you figure out what other people are up to. The people in the here and now that are using NLP have a variety of different reasons for doing it. Some of it is to help themselves become better people, while for others it is about weeding out the rats in their lives. Businesses use it in team building and marketing techniques. Here again, we can see how vast the world of neurolinguistic programming really is. It has been said that people who study neurolinguistic programming live freely. They have the ability to access all different types of situations and make choices in how they choose to proceed instead of being led by instinct and emotion. How you think, feel, behave, and speak can all be choices you make that can help you lead the best life possible. NLP can be used throughout your daily life in a huge variety of ways. Some common reasons that people start using this are that they want to motivate other people, have control over their emotions, conquer their fears, communicate more effectively, and find success in life. There are many other reasons a person would take an interest in NLP. If you are unsure of who you can trust in your crowd, NLP can seriously help. Understanding behaviors and actions of people can help to clue you in on what's really going on around you. This falls into sensory awareness. It is startling what you can learn from looking at someone's body position and paying attention to things like their tone of voice. People really do tell you everything you need to know with very little conversation. Whether you are at your job or heading for a late-night party downtown, honing these skills can keep you mentally and physically protected against predators. Knowing NLP techniques can also inform you when other people are using it for darker desires. Many people use these practices to become their best selves. However, others have more nefarious intent. Obviously, when you can adapt in a situation and make well-thought-out choices, you're going to be more successful. There is less of a chance that people will be able to take advantage of you. In addition, you will be able to better understand the people in your life. Weeding out the keepers from the trash is simpler when you can read the situation accurately and adjust so that you are working toward your desired outcome. How does it work? NLP may seem like enchantment or spellbinding. During treatment, the subject dives deep into their oblivious personality and filters through layers and layers of convictions and discernments to wind up mindful of an involvement in early youth that is in charge of a standard of conduct. NLP takes a shot at the rule that everybody has every one of the assets they have to roll out positive improvements in their very own life. NLP strategies are utilized as a device to encourage these changes. NLP therapy can be sans substance. That implies the specialist can be viable without thinking about the issue in incredible detail. Consequently, the specialist need not be told about the occasion or even the issue, in this manner guaranteeing protection for the customer. Other than this, we likewise have a non-exposure understanding in which the communication between the customer and the advisor is kept secret. NLP puts stock in flawlessness of nature in human creation. Henceforth, NLP urges the customer to perceive their tangible sensitivities and use them to react to a specific issue. Indeed, NLP additionally accepts that the brain is fit for finding even fixes to illnesses and infections. NLP procedures include non-invasive, medication-free treatment that enables the customer to find better approaches for managing enthusiastic issues. For example, low confidence, uneasiness, absence of certainty, ruinous relationship designs, adapting to separation, and our fruitful inadequate morning guiding. NLP has its underlying foundations in the field of social science, created by Pavlov, Skinner, and Thorndike. It utilizes physiology and the oblivious personality to change points of view and consequently conduct. NLP is simply the investigation of astounding correspondence both with yourself and with others. It was created by demonstrating astounding communicators and advisors who got results with their customers. NLP is a lot of instruments and methods, yet it is far beyond that. It is a demeanor and an approach of realizing how to accomplish your objectives and get results. Dark traits of manipulative people. Among the groups of the dark triad, there is a conglomeration of personality traits that are oftentimes seen in criminals. It is not a surprise to realize that most criminals have quite a bit in common. Taking notice to these dark traits is a great way of figuring out if someone has malicious intent toward you or not. There are a variety of different dark traits that we see on an everyday basis. You may know someone who is very spiteful. Anyone that does something they don't like will pay for it. Sometimes it will be petty retaliation, but it can explode into something much more dangerous, depending on who you are dealing with. Criminals tend to be spiteful, as they have malicious intent with their transgressions. Another dark trait that you want to watch out for is egoism. When someone is so self-absorbed and focused on their own achievements that they will run everyone else around them into the ground, it is a major problem. Some criminals scramble their way to the top because of their giant egos and their ability to only care about themselves. Keeping an eye on a big ego can save you a lot of trouble, especially in relationships and business. Have you ever met someone that had loose morals? You know that person that really doesn't have much regard for if what they're doing is right or wrong. Someone that even when they know what they're doing is wrong, does it anyway and then just laugh it off. This is a personality trait referred to as moral disengagement. Obviously, the ability to commit a crime and not feel terrible about it is something common among criminals, a pretty dark trait. Earlier we discussed Machiavellianism. That person that will go to any means to get what they want. They're the ones that are the masters of manipulation. The justification for what they are doing is always solid. When trying to track down criminals, these are some of the hardest to catch as they tend to also be some of the smartest out there. Even experts of NLP can have a hard time locking this trait down. Entitlement or psychological entitlement are also dark traits that we commonly see in criminals and everyday adversaries. Unfortunately, the world's sense of entitlement has gone off the rails. Nowadays, it is natural to meet people that have a sense of entitlement, and this can make it difficult to use this trait in determining somebody's true intent. Self-interest is another trait that you need to watch out for. We all have tendencies to be selfish. However, for some people it is to an extreme. They simply do not care what other people feel or want. This is commonly seen by people boasting about how much money they have or their status. In addition, their self-interest could be used to motivate them in gaining betterment in finances or society. Those that are self-interested also tend to be extremely manipulative. Then we have the narcissist. We spoke of the narcissist earlier. but their traits are very common among criminals. They have a need for attention and commonly an inflated sense of self. They will go to great extremes to prove that they are better than those that are around them. This could be in how they look, how they think, or how they act. The narcissist thinks that their ideas are the best, and therefore criminal intent goes hand in hand with the narcissist. Psychopathy means that you are lacking in the ability to empathize with people. They have an extreme lack of concern where others are involved. This dark trait can also lead to a lack of self-control and extremely impulsive behaviors. Obviously, when thinking about criminals, this trait rings true for many of the extreme horrors we have witnessed in the past. The last dark trait that we think needs to be discussed is sadism. A sadist is a person that likes to inflict pain. In fact, they take pleasure in causing other people pain. This does not necessarily have to be physical pain. In fact, many sadists find joy in completely tearing you down mentally. A wide variety of criminal classes fall into this category, and it is a common trait that we see in many of the people that are committing heinous crimes. Behavior imitation. Behavior imitation is something that can be used for good and for bad. Oftentimes, as children, we mimic the behavior of the people around us. It helps us to learn social norms. In addition, it helps us feel like we fit into the crowd. Many traditions have been built off of people mimicking other people's behavior, that as we continue to grow up, we continue to imitate people around us. Here again, it makes us feel as if we belong. Additionally, it can help us build relationships and understand the people around us more easily. While many people use behavior imitation for the right reasons, there are many others who don't. Criminals who are socially awkward have a tendency of acting like the people around them. It can make it harder to discern the good guys from the bad guys. It is a manipulation tactic that works quite well when people don't exactly know how to behave appropriately. While some people are very good at mimicking those around them, it will be quite obvious when others are trying to do this. Cases of extreme social awkwardness will not allow the person to genuinely behave like those that are around them. This can be a tip to seeing what they may have planned next. Another way that behavior imitation is prevalent with criminals is when they idolize someone or something. They will change their very persona to reflect that of which they have admiration for. A good example of this are people that still follow the ideals of Adolf Hitler. The new generation of Nazis mimic the ways of old because they still believe his blasphemous thoughts to be true. This is truly scary behavior imitation. Body language. A person's body language is one of the biggest tells in how they are feeling and what they may be planning. The way a person moves and behaves while in a conversation, out in public, and at home gives great insight to what's happening with them at that particular moment. Those who work on learning NLP techniques spend a ton of time studying about body language. Body language is how we speak without using words. It can suggest that you are happy, sad, open to conversation, or completely closed off from everyone. Not only is it shown through your actual body, but also through your eyes. Paying attention to the eyes is also an important part of NLP. There are some truths to be found in body language that may not be what the words coming out of someone's mouth are actually stating. It has been found that we gather more information from a person's facial expressions, eyes, and body language than we ever could from their spoken words. So, learning how to read body language can help you in just about every situation you find yourself in. Learning how shady people act can help you in avoiding unwanted issues. When you first start learning about body language, you will be able to easily identify some emotions. Obviously, we all know what it looks like when a person is happy or sad. The signs of this can be seen easily, but finding out when someone is anxious or uncomfortable can be a bit more difficult. Studying nonverbal cues will take you to every area of the body. For example, slightly dilated pupils may not be from a bright light, but may in fact be due to arousal. If someone is constantly biting at their lip, it could be a sign of stalling or higher levels of anxiety in the current situation. How a person is standing or sitting also gives us some clues as to how they are feeling. A person with their arms folded around them is less likely to want to be approached. Whereas an open stance with your hands on your hips means you are likely in control of the situation or you may be aggressive. Learning these types of things can seriously help improve your ability to pick out a troublemaker in a crowd. Ever been in an area and realized someone was acting kind of shifty? Like moving around the room frequently, and during conversations, they are unable to hold eye contact. Your ability to notice this is because most people have at least some basic knowledge on how to read a person's body language. Your posture also plays a key role in what your body is saying to other people. People who slouch and tend to wrap their arms around themselves are typical closed off. They may be feeling unwelcome or anxious. On the other hand, an open posture with your chin up and shoulders back is very welcoming. It shows that you are open to conversation, friendly, and approachable. Not only does your body language help people decide how to approach you, it helps you decide about them. There is a plethora of different aspects to be considered with body language. The more you delve into NLP, the more pieces of body language you will pick up. It can seriously help when trying to identify those that are threatening and may have malintent. Language imitation. Language imitation is another piece of NLP that should be taken into consideration. When we talk to someone, even if we speak the same language, it can be difficult for us to understand each other. Each individual has what is referred to as common language. Common language is simply the words a person uses frequently and understand better than others. When you are in a therapy session or at work and you are listening to someone talk, understanding what they're saying can be hard. It can feel as if they're speaking in a different language. This doesn't work well for anyone as the person listening is actually learning anything. This is a major issue and can cause massive detriment to a company or a person's mental status. Working to hear how someone talks, the phrases they use, and the tone that they have can help you succeed in language imitation. When you can speak in common language to the person or people you are addressing, you will be much more successful. Understanding will be promoted, and what everyone gets out of what you have to say will be more beneficial. Mimicking someone's language is more difficult than mimicking their body language. The more time you spend talking with a person, the easier it will be to pick up on their vocal habits. Someone that is very good at picking up other people's common language can be a danger if they have intentions of doing harm. When we speak in a common language, it promotes trust. Putting trust into someone that wants to use your language against you is obviously something you want to avoid. So, be careful when dealing with people that quickly change their voice to match those that are around them. The ones that pick up on little pieces of context and repeat them to gain sympathy, trust, or control. It may be hard to recognize at first, but the more aware you become of your surrounding, the easier this will be to spot. Criminals tend to be good at this parrot-like behavior. They understand that to get people to like you, they absolutely need to understand you. If control is what someone is looking for, this is a good place to start and get their hooks in. So, while language imitation can help you and your therapist or employees relate, it can also be used to manipulate situations in favor of the person using this tactic. Chapter 9. Manipulation and Persuasion. Understanding manipulation. For many individuals, manipulation seems like a distant concept that happens to others, rather than something that affects them personally. It's uncommon to go through your day pondering manipulation or fearing that you are being manipulated. However, manipulation is a pervasive force in our world. It manifests in advertisements designed to persuade you to buy unnecessary items by convincing you of their necessity. It can be found in the pleading gaze of a partner or child seeking something from you, and in a passenger's charm as they try to win a first-class upgrade from a flight attendant. In essence, manipulation is all around us. It often goes unnoticed because most people are not actively looking for it. Even when one tries to be aware, its subtlety can make it difficult to detect. So, what does the term manipulation really mean? According to the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, it encompasses several definitions, including the skilled management or utilization of something, controlling others unfairly to gain an advantage, and altering something for personal gain through unjust means. That if you're reading this book, chances are you feel a desire to reclaim control over your life or want to hear yes more often instead of no. This book does not aim to teach you how to manipulate others for harm or deceit, but serves as a guide for enhancing your social interactions for your benefit and potentially for the benefit of those around you. It doesn't encourage deception, but instead reveals the manipulative tactics you might have overlooked while empowering you to take command of your life. The psychological connection to manipulation. 3 psychological disorders commonly linked to manipulation are narcissism, psychopathy, and sociopathy. Before delving into the various techniques manipulators might use, it's essential to provide context on these underlying mental health conditions. Narcissistic personality disorder, NPD, affects individuals with a grandiose sense of self-importance, a profound lack of empathy, and an intense need for admiration. People with NPD may exhibit various characteristics, including an inflated self-image that exaggerates their worth or accomplishments, a void of empathy towards others, constantly seeking validation from those around them, fantasies of grandeur, success, and idealized love, a belief in their exceptional nature, understood only by a select few, an expectation of special treatment, an arrogant demeanor, feelings of envy or the belief that others envy them, a readiness to exploit or manipulate others. While the last trait is particularly relevant to our discussion, the others highlight the fundamental psychology of narcissism that facilitates manipulation. This self-centered mindset, combined with delusions of grandeur and a lack of empathy, fosters behavior that prioritizes personal gain at others' expense. Within narcissism exists a spectrum of subtypes, varying from exhibitionists to covert narcissists. Some may exhibit abusive and vindictive behaviors, while others may display thoughtfulness and remorse. The more closely a narcissist aligns with the traits listed above, the more likely they are to be categorized as a malignant narcissist capable of causing harm. Antisocial personality disorder, APD, commonly referred to as sociopathy, is characterized by a long-standing disregard for societal norms and an inability to form genuine attachments. For a diagnosis of APD, individuals must display a conduct disorder before the age of 15, including at least 4 of the following traits: inconsistent work or academic performance, ignoring social norms, potentially engaging in criminal activity, a casual disregard for personal or others' safety, irresponsibility, such as failing to meet financial obligations, difficulty maintaining long-term relationships, impulsivity and a lack of clear ambition, quick temper and aggression, a propensity for dishonesty, illustrated through chronic lying, deceit, or financial irresponsibility. The first 2 categories of personality types share both positive and negative traits. Individuals in these groups can possess intelligence, charisma, or success, yet they may also exhibit controlling, irresponsible behaviors and a pronounced sense of entitlement. Both narcissists and sociopaths can be abusive and typically avoid taking responsibility for their actions, often justifying their worst behaviors. On a fundamental level, they both lack genuine empathy, although they might feign it when it serves their interests. However, despite these similarities, there are significant differences. In the spectrum of these disorders, while all sociopaths can be seen as narcissistic, not all narcissists meet the criteria for sociopathy. Their motivations differ. Sociopaths are often more cunning and manipulative because they do not take things personally, while narcissists are primarily driven by their ego. Sociopaths can be perceived as having no true personality, adopting whatever persona is advantageous at the moment, making them harder to identify. Their behavior is adaptable, and while they may seek approval from others, it is solely for their benefit. They can feign humility and remorse strategically, as part of a calculated agenda. Their actions are often more premeditated, including acts of aggression. In contrast, narcissists tend to be more reactive. They may lie and intimidate, but their actions usually lack a coherent plan, driven instead by their inflated egos. Their focus is on achieving personal success or perfection, often at the expense of others, with manipulation playing a secondary role in their self-centered worldview. Though both personality types pursue their own interests, narcissists genuinely care about others' opinions of them, seeking validation and admiration, which adds a codependent element to their personalities and makes them susceptible to manipulation themselves. A third category worth mentioning is that of psychopaths, characterized by a significant difficulty in distinguishing fantasy from reality, which may result in delusions or hallucinations. Common traits of psychopaths include an inflated sense of self-worth, superficial or shallow emotions, a lack of empathy, an unwillingness to accept responsibility for their actions, an inability to form realistic long-term goals, impulsive behavior, irresponsibility, difficulty regulating their behavior, superficial charm and eloquence, deceptive and manipulative tendencies. Psychopaths often mislead others using superficial charm, driven by a desire for advantage or simply for amusement. Many psychopaths have developed these traits over their lives, incorporating them into a largely functional routine, sometimes even reinforced by their environment. As a result, they may view these behaviors as non-problematic and often disregard how they are perceived. They tend to show indifference toward the consequences of their actions on others due to their profound lack of empathy, believing their motivations are inherently more significant than those of others. This delusional perspective also leads psychopaths to frequently believe their own lies. Lying comes naturally to them, and their detachment from reality may cause them to genuinely feel and believe their falsehoods, even when they are consciously deceiving. These characteristics contribute to a strong correlation between manipulative behavior and psychotic diagnoses. It is important to note that individuals with other psychological conditions, or even those in good mental health, can engage in manipulative behavior under the right circumstances. Persuasion versus manipulation. The line between persuasion and manipulation is so thin that it often gets blurry. Distinguishing these two concepts can often be difficult, especially depending on the circumstances and your own perspective as an individual. Persuasion and manipulation are alike in that in both cases there is someone trying to influence the decisions and behaviors of another. The key distinction between the two is that manipulation is seen to be highly driven by self-interest, where one party is willing to go through any length to benefit themselves, including putting others in harm's way. Persuasion, on the other, is the nicer cousin of manipulation. There is a desire to influence for self-interest, but there is often a line drawn to mark boundaries. Persuasion is the more ethical way to go about it, many will argue. When all said and done, however, the two concepts seem to intertwine, especially depending on the techniques used to achieve either of them. People always have different ideas of what words mean, but to be successful in manipulation and persuasion, you need to know the different ways these terms are understood, as well as what we mean when using them in this book. In common speech, persuasion is considered a neutral word. Of course, someone can be persuaded to do something that helps the persuader and not themselves, but the word itself does not imply that. Manipulation, on the other hand, tends to mean ill intention of the manipulator. The ethics of manipulation and persuasion are a topic we have explored throughout these pages, but know that for our purposes, persuasion is changing someone's beliefs, while manipulation is changing someone's actions. This is easy to remember because NLP involves the neural pathways for both language, belief, and programming action. If you want your subject to change their behavior, you have to get them to change their thinking about their behavior. They are a thinking person just like you are, and while they have mental shortcuts that can get in the way, just like they can for you, your subject is entirely capable of talking through their judgment calls with you. In a conversation with you, they can come to reevaluate their actions. And if you go through the conversation the right way, you will have the opportunity to convince them to change. When it comes to manipulation, there is a slight difference from persuasion. The difference is that at some points, it is, in fact, the right thing to ask them to change their behavior directly. Now, you don't want to pull this out as your first move. This is something you build up to after a long conversation, after you accomplish steps 0 and 1, just as you do for persuasion. But the big difference between changing someone's ideas and changing their behaviors is here in step 2. More often than not, you should directly tell them what you think they should do differently. When NLP newcomers learn this at first, they're totally taken aback. They think, how could I possibly be told to tell them directly to change their behavior? But if you think through it a little longer, it makes sense. What is the difference between belief and behavior? Persuasion changes belief by getting close to someone's mind and changing what is in there. And manipulation is getting closer to their mind and changing what is in there too. But with manipulation, there is the added hurdle of getting them to follow up on the change in thought. While it is absolutely true that all of our behavior ultimately comes from our mind, our brains are still not simple masters of our actions. Rather, our actions are determined by multiple factors other than simply what our brain tells us to do. The reason you eventually have to ask your subject to change their actions directly is that for new behaviors, a change in thought is just not enough. Your subject needs voices other than the one in their head, telling them what to do. They have the thought you got into their head through NLP. You are telling them directly too. But there is still more you have to do. Social bonds are incredibly important to human beings. If you want to manipulate someone's behavior, unlike when you persuade them into having new thoughts, these thoughts alone are not enough. You telling them what to do is not enough, even once they have recognized you as like them. If you want to change their behavior, next you have to change the social environment of the person with the undesired behavior. This is not a catch-all for manipulation because nothing is. After all, not in every situation will you be able to change the social environment of your subject. If they are not friends or family, but rather a coworker, this could prove much more challenging. It is only fitting since manipulation is a more difficult and complicated task than persuasion. But if this is a person whose social environment you have some control over, you have to determine what social factors are leading to undesired behaviors. Is there another family member enabling their drinking or drug use? This is the most prominent example, but all of it is emblematic of the NLP manipulation framework in general. All of this is to say that when you are not in control of a person's social environment, directly telling them what action they should take is a necessary and challenging part of the process. It is so challenging because there is no way around it, and it is also very easy to do the wrong way. You have to work hard not to work too hard for them. If they can see how badly you want them to change their behavior, they will want to continue acting the way they do out of spite. Don't give them this opportunity. Recall how with persuasion, we said never to address objections to your frame. In fact, if at all possible, you don't want to address the frame itself. That's because if you address the frame itself, you are acknowledging the fact that it is not the naturally occurring reality that you want your subject to see it as. However, with manipulation, the situation is different than it is for persuasion. With manipulation, you have to respond to objections directly because you have to tug harder than you do with persuasion. You see, persuasion is a subtler, quieter art than manipulation. This is a direct way of saying that manipulation is loud and aggressive, because it is not. But you can't be quite as gentle with manipulation. You want them to change their habits, so in order to get your subject to understand the gravity of the situation enough to trigger the behavior change, it is necessary that you are slightly pushier than you are with persuasion. Again, don't be pushy, but you can't be as subtle as you are with persuasion. Even when you deal with their objections, you are better off preparing for them before they come up. When you are ready for any question or complaint your subject can haul at you, it is a signal to them that you are like them, you see things from their side, and perhaps you know better. This is step one yet again. If you demonstrate that you are like them and can reason things out better, they will listen. You're almost ready to get into the techniques of manipulation, but before then, you need to get into the personality of the NLP manipulator. You might think that you were born with a certain personality, and you can't do anything to change it, but this couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, the kind of personality you should adopt to get people to do what you want is one that anyone can learn. Why is learning this personality so important? Well, it's important because you need to seem like you are positive about what you are saying. If you seem even a teensy bit unsure in any of your speech or your body language, nobody is going to buy what you are selling. That's why in your body language, dress, facial expression, tone of voice, and words, you need to pull off the personality of someone who knows what they are talking about. They have the answer to your question. They know what's what. If you can pull off that personality, you basically don't have to do anything else. Personality is everything. Don't forget that. Personality is so important because no matter how unlikely something seems on the surface, if it comes out of the mouth of the right personality, people will believe in it. You have to believe in what you are saying to some extent if you expect to pull this off, so don't think you can play act your way through the whole thing. After all, you are not doing the personality right if you are unsure about the merits of what you are saying. But more important than anything you say is the personality you are displaying while you say it. Not everyone has this naturally, but it is not nearly as hard to learn as you might think. The right place to start is always your breathing and your posture. You already know what the right posture to take is: stand up straight and without shaking. Now, take deep breaths like for your state control exercises. Just like before, don't breathe loudly. Breathe deeply, but not in a way that anyone can tell is unusual. The third and final thing you have to do is enter the headspace of this unshakable personality. Everyone has experienced a moment where everything was going right for them, and that is exactly the place you need to go. Revisit that memory as though you were there again right now, and come back as the person you were in that memory. The world is at your fingertips just like it was back then, especially if you carry this person inside of you. That person is necessary to succeed in manipulating people's behavior in the techniques coming up, so be sure you have your personality ready before reading. You won't be able to pull these off otherwise. Chapter 10. Characteristics of Manipulators. The Power of Language. We have demonstrated the immense influence of language as a tool for persuasion. However, manipulators employ more than just words. They utilize tactics designed to mislead and disturb the inner thoughts of their targets. Through their strategic use of language, they achieve several objectives. They spread falsehoods to confuse and disrupt their targets' typical thought processes. They pressure their targets into making hasty decisions, leaving no room for careful consideration. They communicate in an overwhelming manner to diminish their target's sense of self. They criticize their target's judgments, causing a decline in self-esteem. They may raise their voices and exhibit aggressive body language without hesitation. They disregard their target's needs, focusing solely on their own desires, regardless of the consequences. Breaching personal boundaries. Most individuals unknowingly set personal boundaries to protect their private space, such as maintaining a distance from others in social settings. A manipulative person often disregards these boundaries, whether due to ignorance or indifference. Initially, they may refrain from invading personal space, opting to build rapport first, which demonstrates an understanding of boundaries. Once they gain their target's trust, however, they will exploit those boundaries. Contemplating manipulation. Manipulators are often egocentric, demonstrating limited social skills and a singular focus on their own interests. Everything they do revolves around their personal gain rather than considering the impact on others. This raises the question, do they possess psychopathic tendencies? For instance, controlling manipulators usually lack empathy, a vital human emotion tied to survival. Research by Mefford et al. Suggests that individuals with psychopathic traits can suppress empathetic responses. They exploit any perceived weaknesses in their targets, paying little mind to the consequences for their victims. The vulnerabilities of the target serve to empower the manipulator, often leading to more aggressive and cruel behavior. Fostering rivalries. Another tactic used by controlling manipulators is backstabbing, where they praise someone to their face while spreading damaging gossip behind their back. This behavior fosters rivalry among individuals, allowing the manipulator to choose sides for their own advantage. Such tactics often help them forge an initial connection with their target, which can lead to future manipulation. If you identify someone as a backstabber, it's best to keep your distance. Their self-serving agenda does not merit personal involvement, and responding in kind will only prove exhausting. If they sense you are onto their game, they may try to win you over with insincere compliments. Remember, these are likely deceptive. The domineering type. Manipulators rarely display overt weakness. Presenting themselves with unwavering confidence is central to their facade. They aim to impress, often believing they are infallible. Even when confronted with evidence of being wrong, they will cling to their assertions. In one-on-one interactions, they typically see your viewpoint as incorrect. By gradually undermining your beliefs, they seek to erode your self-esteem. Once they achieve this, nothing can restrain them. Often, they adopt a condescending tone and use ridicule as tools for belittling others, making themselves appear superior. When challenged, they might deflect by accusing you of being overly sensitive to their humor, a humor that is often one-sided. Passive-aggressive tactics. A prevalent characteristic among manipulative individuals is passive-aggressive behavior. Preferring to maintain a favorable image, they avoid appearing culpable, even if that's not the reality. They are masters of deceptive facial expressions that intimidate and assert dominance, including furrowed brows, clenched teeth, and eye rolls, often accompanied by disapproving sounds. Manipulators strive to outshine others by proving them wrong. This might manifest as confrontational glares to intimidate a target or as subtle displays of disagreement, such as smirking or turning away. Such actions serve to elevate their status and diminish that of others. Moody blues. What of emotional stability of the manipulator? Is it that which makes them behave the way they do? Do they even know what happiness is? The answer to that is a most definite yes, at least to the latter. Happiness is a tool used initially to help them manipulate. A happy target is more likely to comply. This, in itself, makes the manipulator happy, or at least in a sense of what they consider happiness. But their joyfulness is a perverted model of what most others consider happiness to be. Their happiness is often built on the foundations of another's misery, a misery that they have caused with their cruel manipulations. Equally, though, a manipulator is prone to mood swings, most likely to happen when things are not going to plan. One minute they are euphoric at their latest conquest, then next they could be completely deflated at their failure to succeed. One thing is certain for those who live with or become a target of this type of domineering character: they will be unhappy all the time. Intimidation. One aspect of manipulation, often used as a last resort, is intimidation and bullying. When everything else has failed, they begin to use threats to get their own way. Some, though, may use intimidation from the onset. It may in a source of authority. For example, let's take the role of a manipulative boss. You have requested a day off. They don't want to allow you your request, but have no choice. It is your right. This type of person would want their pound of flesh first. They will set goals for you to reach, so it will delay or cancel your request, such as moving project deadlines forward. This way, they have their little victory over you. Alternatively, such a manipulator may use the tactic of the silent treatment, ignoring someone to the point that it becomes obvious you have displeased them. They seek to make you feel the guilty party. Other more direct, intimidating actions may include stance, using their height or build to tower over you, or standing uncomfortably close. Be careful, as they will seek revenge for wrongdoings they perceive done to them. Nothing will go unnoticed under their watchful eye. Everyone is a potential target, but the weak are more likely to walk into their traps because they're the ones who are easier to dominate. The vulnerable will have little resistance and are easier to bully and coerce. Many of these traits seem more fitting to men, but women can be cruelly manipulative too. This is a person who will never back down in an argument, never admit they are wrong, never apologize for anything. A manipulator will never show respect, but will expect everyone else to show them respect. They love nothing more than to embarrass others. Playing the dumb one is common practice, just to force another person to explain themselves further. At every opportunity, the manipulator will jump in with some sarcastic remark. "Hurry up, we're all waiting for your intellectual explanation," or "Why has no one else ever heard of this?" Their sole aim is to make the other person look a fool, but without seeming to be the one who made it happen. Oh no, the victim did that to themselves because they are stupid. Techniques of manipulation. The methods available for influencing someone's behavior are so extensive that they could easily fill a whole book. Fortunately, this chapter presents the most effective techniques in enough detail for you to start applying them immediately. Bear in mind that each technique relies on your understanding of dark psychology and neuro-linguistic programming, NLP. Without this foundation, reliable application of these methods becomes challenging. Thus, this is merely one aspect of manipulation and persuasion. Our first technique, referred to as fear and relief, involves instilling fear in someone and subsequently providing reassurance by indicating that they still have options. As always, it's crucial to consider the ethical implications of manipulation. If you feel uneasy about using these tactics, you should question their appropriateness. Just because an action benefits you doesn't mean it is advisable. That said, employing fear and relief isn't inherently unethical in every context, even if it's not suitable for everyone's tastes. This manipulation technique operates as you might expect. Start by interacting with your subject as usual, establishing a sense of control to prepare for their reactions to your tactic. Gradually move closer to them. Despite its name, fear isn't the initial element of this approach. If you began with fear, it would undermine their trust in you, rendering the subsequent relief ineffective. Perhaps a more accurate label for this method would be the peace, fear, and relief technique. The peace phase corresponds to step 1. Align with their subconscious through the familiar language of NLP. Next, you introduce the idea of fear, not through shock tactics, but by creating the impression that a negative outcome is imminent. The specifics depend on what outcome you seek to achieve, but it must be significant enough to persuade them to alter their intended actions. The essential factor is that they must perceive it as crucial enough to prompt a change. Another critical component is that the relief must follow swiftly after instilling fear. Otherwise, the subject may link that fear directly to you. Such an association could complicate future interactions, making it vital to provide reassurance as soon as possible, ensuring they don't feel intentionally scared by you. This approach will maintain a positive perception of you while still planting the seed of fear necessary to influence their behavior. Moreover, you cannot overlook the cognitive aspect of manipulation. It remains essential as it underpins the ability to change their mindset. To start, we must revisit the concept of frames and their structures. We previously discussed the need for adaptability in framing during persuasion, which is equally true in manipulation. However, you should now consider the structural aspects of framing even more carefully. This is because prompting someone to change their behavior, as opposed to merely their thoughts, requires more decisive actions. You must directly request a change in their behavior, while also encouraging a more straightforward confrontation of their beliefs. What constitutes the structure of a frame? Fundamentally, it revolves around cause and effect, where the cause pertains to external events and the effect relates to their impact on the subject. Prior to influencing a subject to alter their behavior, they hold specific beliefs about how their actions influence themselves and others. As an NLP manipulator, your role is to demonstrate to them that their current understanding of cause and effect is flawed. This process, known as deframing, is essential for manipulation, as you need significant strategies to prompt behavioral changes. If, after your interaction, the person maintains their original thought patterns, they are unlikely to modify their behavior, just as they will rarely change unless directly advised to do so. Without such intervention, they may never consider the necessity of change. Remember, manipulation encompasses both thought and action. While persuasion primarily targets the mind, manipulation also incorporates a critical action component. To effectively encourage someone to alter their behavior, you'll need to grasp the concept of behavioral tone. Behavioral tone resembles emotional intensity, but it specifically measures the vigor of one's actions. It's important not to misconstrue this as needing to intimidate anyone. Rather, projecting strength doesn't require instilling fear. Embodying a strong presence is central to developing a confident personality, one that naturally commands attention and, crucially, prompts compliance. If you wish to influence individuals to follow your directives, it's essential to remember that actions make a more significant impact than words. People don't always act logically. Their behavior is influenced by various factors. A strong personality capable of disrupting their routine can inspire change. These chapters are filled with valuable insights, which may feel overwhelming if absorbed all at once. Therefore, revisiting them is highly recommended. Although we can't encapsulate every detail, we will summarize the fundamental aspects of manipulation before transitioning to the topic of mind reading. Manipulation necessitates more direct approaches than persuasion, since influencing someone's behavior is not a subtle endeavor. While it is possible to shift perceptions without individuals realizing, modifying actions requires addressing multiple areas beyond the mind. To effect change, consider altering their social environment to mitigate undesirable behaviors. If that's unattainable, you need to stress that the responsibility for change lies with them. Explicitly communicate what you believe needs alteration, and employ the fear and relief method to illustrate the negative consequences of an action. Now that you've grasped the principles and strategies of persuasion and manipulation, we are ready to explore the realms of mind reading, psychic resistance, and more. Signs of manipulation in today's world, practical examples. Manipulation is prevalent in various types of relationships throughout society. It occurs between romantic partners, between spiritual leaders and their congregants, and even in the realm of politics, among many other dynamics. In this section, we will examine the indicators of manipulation across different relationships, particularly within the church. Manipulation in churches. Manipulation within churches can occur in multiple directions. Church leaders may manipulate their congregations, and followers can also attempt to manipulate their leaders. This is particularly disheartening, as many of us view the church as a sanctuary for peace and spiritual nourishment during difficult times. It is tragic when a place meant for solace becomes a source of distress. Below are some ways pastors might manipulate their followers. 1. Lack of open and honest communication. In certain churches, asking questions can be discouraged or even met with dismissal. While it's understandable that some matters must remain private for the protection of members, church leaders should still take responsibility for their actions and be prepared to explain their reasoning for certain rules. Transparency is essential, and church information should generally be accessible to all members. 2. Refusal to admit mistakes. While it's human to err, it becomes problematic when church leaders refuse to acknowledge their errors. Although we may be called to forgive, it can be challenging when leaders fail to communicate openly about their shortcomings. Their tendency to portray themselves as infallible can create tension within the congregation. Be cautious if you notice a recurring defensiveness or if the church appears to hide its mistakes. 3. Use of shame as a control mechanism. Some churches resort to shame to influence their members' behavior, criticizing them for inadequate financial contributions, absences from services, or personal conduct. Regardless of one's familiarity with Scripture, the Bible teaches that those who belong to Christ are not subject to condemnation. It is important to remember that church leaders are not arbiters of eternal judgment, despite sometimes behaving as if they can dictate who is worthy of entry into heaven. They may employ coercive strategies that manipulate members through fear or reward. 4. Selective inclusivity. It is crucial to recognize that God created all individuals equally and welcomes everyone as they are. Yet, some churches impose restrictions on attire, selectivity based on race, or enforce rigid rules for participation. A church should be a welcoming and inclusive community, reflecting Christ's acceptance of all people, from the affluent to those marginalized by society. While regulations are important for any organization, those designed to exclude specific groups are misguided. Church leaders should always remember their role as servants to all. I don't want you to view pastors negatively regarding the actions mentioned earlier. Some may not even be aware of their manipulative behaviors, while others might act with intentionality. On the flip side, pastors can also fall victim to manipulation by church members, often without realizing it. Regardless, manipulation from either party is unacceptable. Now, let's explore how church members might manipulate their pastors. Compliments. While compliments can boost morale and foster a positive environment, some members may exploit flattery as a means to influence decisions related to the church's agenda. It's crucial to remain vigilant of such behavior, as it can be just as problematic as using criticism to coerce someone. Criticism. Criticism is an inevitable part of leadership, and some members may express their discontent through tone or body language. It's important to adhere to the church's guidelines and biblical teachings. Responding gently in these situations can help resolve any conflicts amicably. Silence. Silence can be a powerful weapon against manipulation, but it can also serve as a manipulative tool itself. Some members may employ the silent treatment to exert control over you. Pastors should recognize this tactic, refrain from feeling burdened by it, and instead focus on praying for their members. Prayers. Pastors should exercise caution in sharing their burdens with others. Protecting oneself and one's family from excessive vulnerability is essential. It's wise to confide in trusted friends and be selective about what challenges to disclose. Families. Manipulation can occur in all types of relationships, both intentionally and unintentionally, resulting in individuals being pressured into actions they didn't originally want to take. In family dynamics, parents can manipulate their children just as children can manipulate their parents. Children often learn early that throwing tantrums can yield results, while teens may exhibit certain behaviors to control their caregivers. 1. Steamrolling. Teens may continuously repeat requests to wear down caregivers, bombarding them with "can I?" or "how about now?" until they concede. Point 2. Lying. Some teenagers resort to little white lies or conveniently omit facts that would alter their caregiver's responses, often coordinating their stories to ensure consistency. 3. Retaliation. When they don't get their way, teens might engage in rebellious actions, such as neglecting chores or playing loud music, as a means of retaliation. This can create tension, as caregivers may feel compelled to acquiesce to avoid confrontation. Caregivers can also manipulate their children, which can be damaging during the child's formative years. Signs of caregiver manipulation include a lack of emotional security and affirmation for the child, consistent criticism, an excessive need for the child's attention, making toxic jokes at the child's expense, preventing the child from expressing negative emotions, instilling fear in the child. Politics. Politicians often tap into the emotions of the electorate to garner support, using fear, disgust, and anger instead of compassion or hope. They rarely inspire collective action for the common good and instead manipulate perceptions of opposing candidates and policies, often without our awareness. 1. High turnout claims. Politicians may exaggerate expected voter turnout as a motivational tactic. A suggestion of low turnout might discourage participation. 2. Public shaming. While they avoid public criticism to protect their own reputations, politicians may indirectly shame voters through targeted ads or messages, prompting guilt about not participating. 3. Promises or threats of follow-up. Human behavior often shifts when under observation. For instance, during the 2010 U.S. elections, some recipients of letters encouraging them to vote also learned they would be followed up with, leading to increased voter turnout. Chapter 11. Hypnosis. Hypnosis can take place with or without the individual being aware of it. If someone knows they're being hypnotized, they may have a heightened awareness of the situation, yet they remain open to influence. Hypnosis is a technique that modifies a person's state of consciousness to increase their suggestibility to behaviors they usually wouldn't exhibit. Throughout history, it has been utilized in various contexts, ranging from entertainment to serious psychotherapy, and it often faces skepticism. Within the context of dark psychology, hypnosis could compel an individual to act in accordance with another's wishes or behave contrary to their typical nature. Those in a hypnotic state tend to focus intensely on the tasks presented to them, often leading them to pursue those tasks regardless of the consequences. Hypnosis serves multiple purposes, providing avenues for both positive and negative transformations. The process of hypnosis involves several components, starting with an induction. In popular culture, this process is often illustrated by the image of a mystic swinging a watch in front of someone's face to produce a swirling visual effect. This represents the induction phase, where the aim is to shift another person's state of consciousness, making them more open to suggestion. The induction process aims to alter a person's state of consciousness, allowing for increased suggestibility. To understand this better, consider various states of consciousness: a fully awake individual, someone who is paralyzed yet aware, and a person in a coma. Those being hypnotized are not paralyzed, but are in a state closer to it than their typical consciousness. This modified state reduces their defenses, allowing for greater receptiveness to suggestions. Once the induction process is effectively established, the hypnotist can give commands or instill thoughts. With the individual's defenses lowered, they may accept instructions without skepticism. One effective technique in neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, used in hypnosis is known as anchoring. This involves a hypnotist utilizing something familiar to the individual, like a childhood melody or a nickname, to facilitate the induction process, engaging the subconscious and creating a sense of safety associated with the suggestions. Another NLP-based technique is the NLP flash, which reverses the association of reward and punishment. For instance, if an individual wishes to quit smoking, the hypnotist might prompt thoughts of smoking while simultaneously evoking discomfort, such as physical pain. This method can be quite severe and carries significant implications. Hypnotism can serve as a powerful tool for manipulation, potentially persuading someone against their will. While it may not be as covert as other persuasive methods, It can be executed without the victim's awareness. The next notable form of dark persuasion is manipulation, particularly in interpersonal relationships. Manipulators employ various tactics, with one primary method being to undermine the other person. They often begin as close friends or confidants to build trust before subtly disparaging the individual's attributes, knowing how much they can push before being identified as manipulators. They also instill guilt in their targets, making them feel they owe something to the manipulator, thus creating an unequal dynamic. The outcome is that the victim may feel undeserving of standing up for themselves. Another straightforward tactic of manipulation is lying. Manipulators often resort to lies, both minor and major, to control others' behavior. They craft elaborate deceptions to ensnare others in a web of falsehoods, shaping an illusory version of truth. Whether they seek money, loyalty, employment, or intimate relations, manipulators will fabricate stories to achieve their goals. Chapter 12. Brainwashing. Now that we've established the origins of brainwashing, let's delve into its definition. Brainwashing is fundamentally a process whereby an individual or group employs manipulative tactics to persuade someone to align their will with that of the manipulator. When exploring this subject, it's crucial to differentiate between genuine persuasion and brainwashing, especially since there are numerous persuasion techniques utilized today. Particularly in politics, one common method of persuasion involves making statements aimed at eliciting a positive response from the target, followed by the presentation of factual claims. Ultimately, the manipulator reveals their desired outcome. For instance, consider the following speech. Are you tired of high tuition fees for your child's education? Concerned about the rising costs of gas and electricity? Worried about the ongoing protests and strikes? Remember, the government has indicated that we are nearing a recession, with fuel prices expected to rise due to the significant economic downturn since the Civil War. If you want positive change for our country, vote for the Democrats. It's important to recognize that these strategies, although they may appear subtle, are manipulative techniques employed by those seeking control. Here are some common manipulation tactics to be aware of. Isolation. A primary step in brainwashing often involves isolating the victim from friends, family, and loved ones. This ensures that the victim relies solely on the manipulator for information and ideas, minimizing the chances of outside intervention. Attacking self-esteem. After isolation, the manipulator seeks to undermine the victim's will and self-worth. They aim to break down the victim, reshaping their identity according to the manipulator's desires. Effective brainwashing occurs only if the manipulator perceives themselves as superior. This undermining often manifests as intimidation, ridicule, or mockery. Mental abuse. Manipulators engage in mental torment by lying to the victim and humiliating them publicly with the truth. They may bully their victims, invading their personal space and leaving no opportunity for respite. Physical abuse. Physical tactics can also be employed in brainwashing, such as depriving the victim of sleep, exposing them to uncomfortable conditions, or physical harm. More insidious methods might include manipulating the environment, altering noise levels, flickering lights, or adjusting the temperature. Repetitive music. Studies show that playing a consistent beat between 45 to 72 beats per minute can induce a hypnotic state. This rhythm, akin to a human heartbeat, can shift a person's consciousness to an alpha state, where suggestibility increases drastically. Limiting contact. During the brainwashing process, manipulators often restrict victims' interactions to other brainwashed individuals. This peer pressure leads victims to adopt and promote group beliefs, fostering a sense of belonging. Us versus them mentality. This tactic fosters a dichotomy between groups, prompting the victim to choose sides. By establishing this division, manipulators can cultivate absolute loyalty and compliance. Love bombing. This approach involves drawing victims into a group through physical affection and sharing intimate thoughts, creating emotional bonds through excessive attention and validation. These techniques represent just a few methods of brainwashing. Once a person is subjected to such manipulation, restoring their original mindset can be exceedingly challenging. This is often due to the formation of rigid neural pathways, which may explain why those who have been brainwashed struggle to reassess and rethink their circumstances. Chapter 13. Preventing manipulation. Manipulation typically arises when a person is used for the gain of others, creating a power imbalance where the manipulator exploits their victim to fulfill their own agendas. Manipulative individuals often disguise their own desires as the needs of others, attempting to convince you that their views are objective truths. They may act as if they are under duress, offering assistance with the intention of improving your attitude, performance, and overall life. However, their true motivation is to control you rather than support your growth. They seek to validate their own choices and prevent you from surpassing them. Once you allow these manipulative figures back into your life, getting rid of them can be challenging. They often shift their stances on various issues and evade accountability, frequently promising help that never materializes. People often fall victim to manipulation when they tolerate passive-aggressive behaviors. A recent study published in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships found that negative individuals significantly hinder others' performance. The research indicated that ignoring negative people might benefit you more than engaging with them, as those who ignored negativity exhibited greater concentration during follow-up tasks compared to those who interacted with discouraging individuals. Researchers concluded that deliberately disregarding certain negative interactions is an effective method for conserving mental energy. The ideal approach is to steer clear of negative individuals, but this isn't always sufficient, particularly since such individuals can also be manipulative. In those scenarios, additional strategies may be necessary. Recognizing manipulation is crucial, as being manipulated can leave individuals feeling foolish, ashamed, and vulnerable. Continually falling for such tactics can foster a negative perspective on life. Often, the best defense is to adopt a stance of distrust towards others. Manipulation can succeed only if the victim fails to recognize it or chooses to endure it. However, there are various strategies to detect manipulation and mitigate its effects. While some suggestions may not suit every situation, they can provide valuable guidance. Understand your basic rights. One key principle in these situations is to be aware of your fundamental rights and recognize when they are being infringed upon. You have the right to advocate for yourself and ensure your rights remain intact, but it's important to do so thoughtfully and without causing harm to others. Remember, you risk losing these rights if you inflict harm. Familiarize yourself with essential human rights, including the right to be treated with dignity and respect, the right to express your needs, opinions, and feelings, the right to say no without guilt, the right to establish your own standards and priorities, the right to protect yourself from emotional, mental, or physical threats. These rights delineate your boundaries, especially in a society where they are often overlooked. Manipulators frequently seek to strip you of these rights to gain control. Nevertheless, you possess the authority to assert your autonomy. Maintain distance from manipulators. As previously noted, one effective way to identify a manipulator is to observe how they behave differently in various contexts. While everyone may adapt their behavior in social situations, manipulators often exhibit extreme variations, showing kindness to one person while being rude to another or fluctuating between aggressiveness and helplessness. If you notice such behaviors in people close to you, it's wise to keep a healthy distance and minimize engagement until absolutely necessary. Remember that addressing the deep-seated issues often driving manipulation is not your responsibility. Stop self-blaming and personalization. When dealing with manipulators, it's easy to fall into the trap of self-blame for not performing at your best. It's crucial to remind yourself that you are not responsible for the problem. Manipulators are skilled at making you feel guilty about your actions, which can lead you to relinquish your rights and power. Take time to evaluate the nature of your relationship with a manipulator by asking yourself the following questions. Am I being treated with respect? Is this relationship one-sided or reciprocal? Do I feel satisfied in this relationship? Your answers will reveal whether the issue lies with you or the manipulator. Probe the manipulators. Mental manipulators often impose requests or demands on you, pushing you to go above and beyond to meet their needs. It's important to redirect the focus back to them when you receive such solicitations. Ask probing questions to determine if they recognize the unfairness of their requests. Inquire if their expectations seem reasonable or fair. By asking these questions, you're essentially holding up a mirror for the manipulator to reflect on their behavior. If they possess any self-awareness, they may reconsider their tactics. Conversely, pathological manipulators will typically dismiss your concerns and insist on having things their way. In such instances, it's crucial to assert your rights firmly, causing them to retreat. Say no firmly and diplomatically. Expressing no with clarity and diplomacy is a fundamental aspect of effective communication. When done properly, it allows you to stand your ground while maintaining a constructive relationship. Remember, it's your right to establish your own boundaries and priorities without feeling guilty. You also have the autonomy to choose a fulfilling and happy life. Set consequences. If a manipulator continues to ignore your boundaries and your refusal, it may become necessary to establish consequences. Clearly articulating these consequences is vital in resisting manipulation. When effectively communicated, these consequences can deter the manipulator and encourage them to respect your boundaries. Confront the bullies safely. It's important to recognize that manipulators can act as bullies, using intimidation and aggression to control others. Bullies often target those they perceive as weaker, so remaining passive can make you a victim. However, many bullies are, in fact, cowards at heart and will often back off when challenged. This behavior is common in various settings, including workplaces and schools. Consider the long-term consequences of your actions. Rather than opting for the quickest or easiest route, keep in mind the potential long-term effects of your decisions. Psychological manipulators excel at making their demands appear the simplest and least painful, which can cause individuals to act impulsively and later regret their choices. To avoid facing undesirable consequences, strive to make decisions you will be proud of in the future. Conclusion. Dark psychology is present everywhere in the world. While this may be an uncomfortable truth, it is one that can't be changed. I hope the insights you've gained from reading this will guide you on your journey, enriching it with the company of engaging and thoughtful people, creating a vibrant tapestry of experiences. While it's tempting to focus solely on the destination, it's essential to remember that the journey itself holds the greatest treasures. Take a moment to look up from your path and notice who is walking alongside you. Reflect on their gestures and expressions, and consider how your own behaviors resonate with theirs. You'll uncover meanings along the way, but be sure to savor the experience itself. After all, that's truly the most rewarding part. Wishing you all the best. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to join our growing community.